just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And if you're watching on YouTube, yes, I'm in a new station because I've just made some coffee for the boys and the great Roo. What do you want, mate? What do you want?
Mate, I'll have a Rooster special. How about a almond caramel latte for me?
Yeah, look, that is typical Roosters. You know, we start the show, you have some kind of expensive taste. We're battlers around here, mate. What do you want, mate? You got two options. You got everyday grumpy or very grumpy.
Every day for me, mate.
Everyday grumpy, and so here we go. If you're watching on YouTube, just making some coffee for the boys. But hey, boys, how was the weekend?
Well, mate, I'm on holidays at the moment, so I just, just for the listeners, for Kempy, for all the mob here, like turning up on holidays, that's all right. But had the weekend in Perth, just checking out the surrounds for the Perth Bears, the venture, making sure that they're on track, scoping out the local talent. And
Your coffee, what name is it?
Roo.
Okay, Roo. Okay. Sorry, apologies for interrupting.
Did you check out any of the Sheffield Shield while you're over there, Timmy? Or
I didn't, mate. I missed it. I was scoping the local talent for any future rugby league Perth Bears stars,
Yep.
and all built like string beans.
Yep.
Way too much focus on kicking, running, all that sort of stuff. So it's like they're playing a different sport, mate.
Speaking of string beans that can play, I played him in golf the other day. Handy with a stick in hand.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Undiscovered
nice segue.
talent.
Yeah, there's a bit of a breaking the yips debut coming up as well. In
Also known as the Hackers now.
the Hackers.
Yeah.
Straight Hackers.
Yep.
Yeah, right. Straight
Yep,
Hackers that's
rebrand.
coming up, but did have a hit with the Roo. It was an eventful day, mate. You struck him well, but a bad relationship with the sand.
Yeah, I was in all sorts in the
Yeah.
sand. Hardly left. It's like a day at the beach, Kempy.
You don't look upon sand the same way that Mick Cronin does.
Not at all.
One coffee for Roo. I'll bring it to you, mate.
Thanks, mate. Shan't be moving.
Geez, rare change from the no almond milk for you, mate.
I know it's gonna be testing.
could be explosive.
We could be in Gurry.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Good drop.
good, great drop.
And it's pretty obvious the show is brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. Head to grumpycoffee.com.au. Huge announcement as well. The pods are back in stock. So go to grumpycoffee.com.au. We've got pods, we've got beans, we've got ground, we've got everything at grumpycoffee.com.au. Also, continue to send your emails in to Maddie if you want us to come down and put coffee on for you, whether it's an afternoon gym session or middle of the day or morning run or whatever it is. If you've got a large group, PT session or whatever it is, we would love to come down and put coffee on for you. So we've got a bunch of emails. We're going to go through them and then kind of like work out our schedule over the next month. So send them in to matt@blokeinabar.com and grab some Grumpy Coffee, the best coffee in all the land. Let's get straight into it, shall we? It's time to face a bit of music, brought to you by Sportsbet. Now, we didn't actually have any music to face this week.
No tips. But there's been a bit of activity on your feed account.
Yes.
And I don't even know if we've mentioned it on this show yet, but the challenge is happening over spring. You versus Dan Gorringe.
Dan Orange. So basically, Dan Orange, he's a former AFL player that also has a podcast, and we will basically be doing a competition where we're doing racing tips. I don't know anything about racing, but whoever loses the racing tips over the spring, over the racing season, the opposing person's audience will choose what they wear, and they have to get up in a fashion show.
Fashions on the Field, Ballarat Cup, 7th of December. So, bit on the line.
I didn't start that great. Let's just put it that way.
No, he didn't start great. Although over the weekend, Dan didn't get a single racing tip right. You actually had two horses place. You had Bella Nipotina in the Everest.
Sort of bounce back. It's how you bounce back that matters.
Mini bounce back, and you had I think it's called Stolly Molly. Might have come second in.
You don't know who Stolly Bolly is? Yeah.
No, I'm flying blind, mate. Thank God for your racing tips.
Yeah.
But you made up a little bit of ground. I think you're currently sitting plus 0.5. Dan's plus 2.1. So it's actually like pretty neck and neck at this stage.
Okay.
So
beak and beak.
you're there and thereabouts, but a little bit of water to go under the bridge yet. A couple of racing tips, and you can follow obviously Denon's racing tips on the feed right through the spring.
And look, I'm not one for excuses at all,
Yep.
but like one of us, our sport has international footy,
It does,
and the other one doesn't. So
great
while
point.
I'm working for you guys to make sure that I've got good content on a Monday for you because I'm watching international rugby league.
Yep.
He's doing absolutely zero, nothing.
Yep. Really good point. Really good point. We'll take that into account. But still probably 3 or 4 weeks to go there before someone's got to face the music out of Ballarat. And with a bit of luck, that'll be Dan. That won't be you.
You don't want to see me in a fashion show. Let's put it that way.
I actually kind of do, but I think I'm.
It's almost the antithesis of what a fashion show is supposed to represent.
Yeah.
Which is essentially a guy without any fashion that only wears bloke merch.
Yep.
That's not very fashionable.
Got to keep the sponsors happy though. Yep.
Anyway, you know what? We need a bloke suit. That's what we need for next year. Bloke suit, get it
I'd
done.
be like that. Remember Conor McGregor wore that one and it said "FU" kind of in pinstripes.
Yeah,
Well, that
okay.
I'm just get a little bloke one like that.
It says aroused all over it.
Yeah, I like it. Yep. Highly aroused. Make it happen. Well, you've got, what, 5 weeks to get it ready. So,
Okay, there we go.
yeah.
There we go.
We'll put some tips in, though, for the Pacific Champs at the end of the show. But, yeah, make sure you're following these guys for their racing tips as well.
Just quietly, I did tip Australia and PNG, so I would have won this week. Did you tip PNG?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
I had
I
Australia
didn't hear it.
13 plus.
Hey?
Had them 13 plus.
I had them 18-0.
I actually had Tonga plus 17 and a half. Sick beat. Can you believe that? Right, I couldn't believe what I was saying. Anyway, it is what it is.
Give us a follow on the feed, guys. Got some really, really fun stuff planned over the holiday. No, we're actually in season. We always talk about this. Rugby league is our off season.
Yep.
Cricket season is our in season.
Yep.
So give us a follow.
Sheffield Shield.
And we've got some cricket stuff coming up as well, which is going to be really fun. Alrighty, it is time for the Hungriest Player, brought to you by Menulog. This week's Hungriest Player, it is the Hammer. That's right. Use code HAMMER, HAMMER, for $7 off Indian. Minimum spend is $20. The Hammer was my Hungriest Player. I tell you what, we spoke about it off air, but there's an argument to be made. He is a top 5 rep player since he debuted. When he puts on a rep jersey, aside from one game, he has been unbelievable. And on the weekend, talk about class. Like, he was on another level, and just his ability. Every time he got the ball, you could see the defence almost beginning to stress and the anxiety was rising. And eventually, he makes that play in and away. Big fan, try time. Then obviously you add on the defence. He only missed 1 tackle. We've already spoken about his origin record where he's made something like 30 tackles, only 1 miss. Hammer, in a rep jersey, is built different.
Isn't it incredible when you look back on it, when the Dolphins, were signing all these players and all we said for a year was, who's the marquee guy? Who's the marquee player? The fullback's a bench player for the Cowboys. And, I think I agree with you. I think across rep games over the last 2 to 3 years, he's been the best. He's
unbelievable.
He's had 1 poor game. It was the week after I said he was the best centre in the game last year. So I'll stay quiet.
It's just such a luxury for the Kangaroos to have, for the Maroons to have, the Dolphins. Just the ability to move this bloke between fullback, centre, wing, whatever your team is after at any point in any game. And he just slots in and he's world class in every single position. It's I still think fullback is probably his best spot, but to do this on the national stage at centre, he doesn't have a bad rep game in him.
I'll tell you what, fullback, I agree. Fullback is still his best spot. However, I reckon in a system that could get him become a roaming centre, I reckon centre would be his best spot.
Yes, if you got him doing it,
Yep.
and like Manu, Turbo-esque, Turbo's one, Turbo-esque levels of roaming, yeah, sure, it's his best spot. And just get him chiming in around the ruck, following those forwards, looking for the offloads. He'd be sensational at centre, especially, like even the Dolphins, you've got Trey Fuller, who unfortunately he's done his ACL, won't be available next year. But if you can have those 2 blokes in around the ruck and getting a gun fullback in, gee, makes a well-balanced team.
Absolutely. And the only weakness in his game is he's not taking 25 hit-ups. But, in saying that, you don't want a Ferrari like him doing that because that's how their bodies get banged up. They're not ready for the big play in the big games.
And that's the thing about the roaming centre. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to be taking 25 hit-ups. It's just being in and around the ball, ready to pounce on an offload or any broken play.
Yeah.
So, like they said, that's not his game. He's not a high work rate sort of player, but he doesn't have to be in that role.
No, and that's you don't want to take away, it's the argument, the whole David Fafita argument where, a couple of years ago, he used to break games open and everyone kept saying, oh, we need more work from him. We need him to take all the shit hit-ups. So what does David Fafita do? He goes, okay, yep, sweet, takes it on board, takes all the shit hit-ups, does all the right things. And now all of a sudden people are saying, oh, we've lost his best weapon, which is his game-breaking ability just to score tries. And it's the same thing with Hammer. Is you don't want to turn him into, for example, Dylan Edwards is almost the opposite of a Hammer. Don't get me wrong, Dylan Edwards can break a game open, but his strength is his repeat abilities. His strength is he's always working, he's always taking hit-ups, he's always around the ball. It's almost like, imagine telling Dylan Edwards, oh, we want you to turn into just being a game breaker. You'd be like, well, that's not his strength. And it's the same with Hammer. And we're all guilty of it. You get a little bit obsessed with the stats and the 250 metres a game and the 25 hit-ups, but don't take away what makes him great. And that's what makes him great, is game breaking.
When I think about when it comes to rep football, I straight away think Turbo and Latrell as centres is the most damaging you can get. And, he's very different, but if he gets the better of those two on any given day, I'm not surprised anymore. Do you remember
Yeah.
when he first got picked at centre and he had to mark Turbo?
And everyone was like, oh, here we go. Because this is when Turbo won the Man of the Series.
Yep. And he was, everyone was expecting Hamiso just to get his pants pulled down.
Yep.
And
I remember the selection was basically mocked.
Yep.
Like, why the hammer at centre? Are you serious?
I remember going in hyper confident that matchup as a New South Welshman. And yeah, it's crazy how it's all played out.
Yep. He was outstanding. So that is use code HAMMER for $7 off Indian, minimum spend $20. Now, Bloke in a Bar is also brought to you by Aussie Footy Shorts, the best footy shorts in all the land, guys. Head to Aussie Footy Shorts Instagram, give them a follow. They do custom design. So let's say you've got a Mad Monday, a going away trip or whatever. You can get custom design mates. They've also got Bloke, limited edition Bloke footy shorts currently available, plus thousands of other designs. That's Aussie Footy Shorts. They've got pockets. We could do them ourselves. We don't, because Aussie Footy Shorts are the best in the business. And he's a bloke just like me. He started it from nothing. So get around him. Aussie Footy Shorts. Head over to the website, grab some footy shorts. But it's time for a hot take, guys. It's time for a hot take. On the weekend. Now, guys, this isn't necessarily a hot take. This isn't a hot take. This is more of a hot talking point. So probably one of the bigger talking points coming out of the game of the weekend. The great Roo, he's got it here. Not so hot, mild take, but big talking point, in my opinion.
You'd still let it cool down for a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
But look, I think off the back of that game on the weekend, Australia takes on New Zealand this weekend coming. I assume Dylan Edwards will be the fullback for that. I think he needs to have a big game. I think he's under a little bit of pressure.
Okay, wow.
I thought that game on the weekend wasn't fantastic from Dill. His games for the Kangaroos the end of last season weren't fantastic either. I think he was playing on the wing for most of those.
He probably hasn't had... I would say he hasn't had a good game yet for Australia.
Yeah, completely agree. He was great for the Blues during the year. Obviously fantastic for Penrith, as he always is. But for the Kangaroos, he hasn't really had that big game yet. If he was to have another poor game against New Zealand, I'm looking around that squad. You've got Hamiso, you've got Turbo, and you've also got Bradman Best in the squad. You've got Matt Burton in the squad that can play centre. So I kind of think he needs to have a big game here to lock himself into that jersey for the final.
Wow, okay. I definitely see where you're coming from, because I do believe he hasn't had anywhere near the level of game he's had for New South Wales or Penrith. It'd be so... I'd give him this series. But I do see where you're coming from. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I think he'll get the series, and I think because of the style of fullback that he is, he stays pretty heavily on that right edge, the way he plays at fullback with Penrith and sweeps out to the right, doesn't spend a lot of time on the left. We sort of see it similar for the Kangaroos as well. They've sort of built it around, not around Dylan Edwards, but they're playing to his style at club level, which hasn't changed at international level. I just think because it's such a short series, it's a lot to change up, a key member of your spine going into a final after the Kiwis game, provided it does play out that way. So I think he'll be right for this series, but I even look ahead to the World Cup, and I think Malmaning sort of alluded to rep form being a big factor in selecting this squad, and I sort of thought in that sense it was a bit unlucky on James Tedesco, because NRL form, he was unbelievable this year, arguably the best fullback in the game. Rep form was the one Origin game where Suoliti was sent off, and it was just a bloodbath. It was just a messy game. Put a line through it, move on. Dylan Edwards obviously terrific at Origin, but he was looking ahead to the World Cup in a couple of years' time, and he's probably going, well, James Tedesco's probably not going to be there. So let's start building towards that, and that's where Dylan Edwards comes in. But that also, in my eyes, is where Kalen Ponga's, if I was gambling on it, is probably the fullback for the World Cup for me. If it's not him, you give Reece Walsh another year or two to sort of round out his game, the areas in his game. It'll probably be him. Massive series for Dylan Edwards to try and cement that spot to be the incumbent fullback going into next year's selection, into World Cup selection. So whilst I agree with your point, Roo, he's under pressure this series, but I think he'll be fine. They'll stick with him. But for his rep future, and it sounds so harsh on him, for the Kangaroos, with those two blokes breathing down his neck, these two superstars, he needs a big series.
Let's say we get to that World Cup next year or whatever it is. Let's say Latrell's available, Hamiso's available, and Turbo's available. Do you leave one of those three out to get Edwards in the side at fullback? I personally don't think so.
Yeah, wow, okay. Wow, so it's like this is almost his rep career on the line. Not maybe for New South Wales, But it's almost his Aussie jersey on the line this series.
Like if he comes out with the game like he did last weekend, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull the trigger on him.
Yeah, we are.
I
Okay.
really wouldn't be.
Just to be over all those blokes you mentioned and I mentioned, he needs to kill it. He can't give them a reason to drop him, I think.
Yeah. What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, well, I think he probably the last 6 weeks of his season, I think we all sort of touched on the fact that he looked a little bit tired, potentially a little bit injured as well. Probably not at his absolute Dylan Edwards best that we know. But the reason he's probably pushed himself to go, no, I can play, I'm sweet, is for the exact reason you've said, because if he leaves the door open and someone else comes in and does a good job, he might only get one crack at kind of locking up this jersey. So I feel like he's a little bit underdone personally at the moment. He's not at his absolute best. At his absolute best, I think he is someone who could lock down this jersey for the next little bit. But as we touched on with the Panthers, 4 premierships in a row, 5 grand finals in a row. A lot of those guys, you felt like they needed the break after this grand final. I think he's one of them. I think for sure his spot's probably under a little bit of pressure.
I think as well, just to counter your argument, I understand it's a smaller competition, but they don't have a game next week. They've got two weeks to prepare for that final.
Which gives them more time if
Plenty
they
of
do
time.
decide to.
Yeah. Like if you had 1 week, 5 days turnaround, it is a different story. I think having the extra week, I think if he doesn't perform, I reckon they would probably go.
I do think also Tommy is such a good player. I don't think anyone is worried about him just slotting in and killing it.
Yep.
I just think I would look at it from like Mal does tend to seem like quite loyal to his selections, and I wonder whether he just goes, back him all the way in here to give him every opportunity to earn that jersey. But I definitely see your point. Just a quick question as well. Isn't it interesting how it just shows you how incredible the Penrith system is? Because the Penrith players haven't really, like as a whole, Toto's really the only one that's gone to rep and just gone boom, like same level. Nearly every Penrith player in rep footy has taken a little bit to warm to it. Like even Isaiah Yeo, he was under pressure after game 1 this year. Now I think that he was incredible. I actually thought he was good. But I think his series year and year before that weren't great for New South Wales. Obviously he's the Australian captain now and I think it's deservedly so. But like Nathan Cleary, even for Australia and New South Wales, it just shows you that Penrith system is so precise that it's going to take these Penrith boys just a little bit of time to like step out of it to a degree.
Yeah, well, you'd argue outside of Brian Toto and probably the 2 middles playing for New Zealand. Yeah. Outside of them, the other ones, I agree with you. Yeah, like even Liam Martin, as much as I think it's bullshit, like a lot of people have had question marks over his spot in rep teams and stuff. I personally think those people don't know what they're looking at, but there has been question marks over a lot of them.
And I think, I'm not suggesting that they've played badly, but you would expect the team with the 4 premierships or whatever just to go straight in, boom, be the leaders of a team. But it hasn't really worked out that way. And it is an interesting thing. So, what do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, it's a fascinating one. And the other one I wanted to throw at you boys, just like while we're on sort of squad session, like you're right. You've mentioned a bunch of Penrith players there who nowhere near the success they've had at rep level to what they have at the Panthers. It says it all. Connor Watson, completely snubbed from the squad. Because I don't think we've actually sort of spoken about it on Bloke as such, the squad selection. And I just thought, we spoke about it timelessly this year, time and time again, but he's just the perfect 14. And I've looked at the team on the weekend where, really fascinating, we'll get to the game soon, but sort of Ruben Cotter spent a bit of time at number 9, but they ended up going with Matty Burton as the 14, the utility in this team. He actually came on in the back end of the game, played essentially as a 13 and went quite well to his credit, but is there to essentially cover halves, centre. Connor Watson, he did it for the Blues. He can cover halves. He can come on and spell Harry Grant at number 9 at a high rate. He can play as a middle forward. Everywhere he goes, no matter where he is, he's a top-line player. I thought he was pretty hard done by it to not only to not be in the squad, but to not be playing that first game against Tonga.
Yeah, so I think Mal has come out, and Matty, can you please search him talking about it? I think he has come out and said the fact that Benny Hunt is an out-and-out half is what pipped him in the squad, whereas like Connor Watson is more of a Mr. Fix-It half. But yeah, we'll get Matty to get the quote up. But I agree. I actually thought, I was surprised he wasn't in the squad. I mean, I'm really happy for Matty Burton. I really am. And, you look towards the future as well. Maybe that's what you're doing with Matty. But I think if I was going and selecting it before, I probably would have had Connor Watson in the squad before Burton. However, if my eye is on the World Cup, I can understand the Burton one, because by the time the World Cup comes around, he should be flying.
So Hunt essentially there in terms of if Mitch Moses was to go down, he wanted an out-and-out 7 to cover it.
Yeah, I think so, if you've got the quote, Matty. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Mal alluded to that when the selection was made, that it was the out-and-out half that Benny Hunt was.
And that's it. Like, there's a bigger picture, World Cup, going through this campaign and whatnot. But just that team I was looking at the weekend, I'm like, Connor Watson fits this team better than what Matt Burton
because
does.
he's only got Moses as a 7 at the moment. So that's why. So, yeah, because he's not carrying 2 7s in the squad, to my understanding.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah.
So, yes. So I'm pretty sure it was because he wasn't carrying DCE and he knows Benny Hunt can do that if he has to. I think that's why he did it, made that selection.
I sort of came out of that game on the weekend. I'd be picking Ben Hunt as my 14. I love that 1-2 punch of him and Harry Grant.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd be moving away from it. I was surprised when Harry Grant actually came off for a spell. I figured if Burton's going to be in jersey 14, Harry Grant will go this.
So they moved Cotter. Anyway, we'll get to the review. Yeah, really interesting. And I can't wait to see these Penrith boys over the next few years as to what kind of their rep career ends up looking like. Because, you look at the Storm and their dominance, how they basically just went, Storm into rep footy. And granted, I know it's different and they had other players around that are incredible, but it's probably the one area where you look at that Penrith squad as a whole, like you've got obviously To'o and the front row, that they haven't completely dominated that arena yet. They've done well, but not dominated the arena yet.
Isn't it crazy how quickly it can all change? Like, I reckon a year ago today we were sitting here going, geez, Dylan Edwards might be the unluckiest player of all time.
Yeah.
He's just never going to get a go at rep football. Maybe a little bit more than a year ago, but he's now played Origin. And we're now talking about who's going to get him out of the Kangaroos side. Crazy how it all changes.
Yeah, and even like Isaiah Yeo, like people were saying his jersey was under pressure for New South Wales. He's now the captain of Australia. Yeah. So yeah, it's crazy how quick things turn. And then you look at like Cleary. I know Moses didn't play well on the weekend, but New South Wales are in the most bizarre position ever next year. You've got Nathan Cleary, future pretty much great, if not immortal, and there's this weird Moses situation.
And now you got the new coach as well. So
Weird.
Yeah. It's a conversation for another day. Different.
Anything there, Matty?
Podcast.
I think it was on SEN. It's all good. Alrighty. Let's get into what makes us grumpy. I tell you what makes me grumpy, boys. Brought to you by Grumpy Coffee, obviously. What makes me grumpy is the length of the season. And I know this is a talking point that we've spoken about ad nauseum, but I was just like leading into the game on the weekend, and I'll be honest, I was pretty excited, to see Tonga. Put it this way, if Tonga had have played Australia within that period since they beat us, I would have just been like, yeah, the footy's on. Yeah, I can't wait to see it. It's going to be pretty good. But what excited me the most was the fact that we hadn't played Tonga since 2019, since they beat us. And so I just wonder whether the length of the season takes away the impact of international footy, where you kind of get to a point where there's not a big enough break between the season and international footy, or there's just so much footy on by the time you get to international game, you're a bit burnt out. I don't know. I just think I get it. I understand the argument of it's the media that wants it. It's Fox, it's Nine, and they've got these deals and the players get paid for it. I'm not talking about it from a player perspective or anything like that. Everyone knows kind of our feelings on that. It's more from a fan perspective that I'm talking about it, where I don't know, I just felt a bit of that like fatigue to a degree heading into this week. Now, when the game actually, when they actually kicked off and I saw the Tongan side come out, obviously once you're locked in and it's a great game, and I actually really enjoyed the game. Good turnout as well, at nearly just under 34,000, which was nearly a record crowd. But I just wonder, is the season length impacting the enjoyment of international rugby league?
I think it 100% is. And I mean, we had Australia v Tonga last week. All we spoke about all week was where Ben Hunt was going to be in 18 months' time.
Yeah.
Like, it dominated all the conversations last week. And I'm the same, mate. Once I saw them run out, I was excited. But the lead up to it just wasn't really there for me.
If I'm being honest, and this might be, because I work in the industry, so the whole year, like I was just tired this week. Like I just didn't. The only thing that excited me was the fact that we hadn't played them since 2019.
Yeah.
Well, then, as I said, once you see them run out the Australian V, that's just like, oh shit, this is mad. But yeah, before it, I was just a little bit fatigued.
But it was also like it should have been so exciting to see Turbo back for the first time in 6 years, to see Mitch Moses.
We didn't even talk about that much until
exactly
obviously
right.
the game where you heard it.
We had Moses and Dearden as the Australian halves, and I don't know, it just. Yeah, and I agree with you. Once they ran out, it was a different story, but the lead up to it was it was bizarre, I thought.
Yeah. Once I saw what I just like really shocked me, just seeing the Australian jersey, the V, and them lining up, it hit me, and I just wasn't ready for it because I was so kind of fatigued. What about you, Timmy?
Yeah, the build up for sure. I feel the same as you boys. I just think for many reasons the season's too long, but talking about it as purely a fan perspective, once the game started on the same, I was fired up, I was ready to go, I loved it. But the other thing is I feel like growing up, when the season was shorter, correct me if I'm wrong, but it used to be a substantially long international calendar at the end of the season, and it was a bit more of a Four Nations tournament format. And we see it time and time again, but international teams, and it's always been the Kiwis, not so much a one-off test, but they've always built into campaigns, even sort of last year when they peaked for the final. But they were just had group stages and the Four Nations, and it was just, I love the concept. It's just over and done in a flash, and they play a couple of quick games and then it's done. But because the NRL season's so long now, and they need their time off the players and all that, it just has to be quashed into this tiny little tournament.
Yeah, and there's they're not touring or anything like that. That's why I enjoyed the World Cup so much, because they were touring, it was long, it was great. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think we're probably a little bit fatigued after 26, 27 rounds of footy plus finals, and there's a lot of those games towards the end where, you've got teams in the bottom 8 who can't make it playing each other. It's all about just having that context being key, and I think that is eventually the goal, to get, 20 teams, season's a bit shorter, then you've got your finals. Then I would like to see the focus shifts purely to internationals for 4 weeks. So excited about that. And then side note, all the transfers and player trades and things like that, I think that should happen as a supplementary 2-week block after all that. So Guru made a good point about, the week leading into it, we're all going, where's Ben Hunt playing next year? Keep that separate, a bit like they do in the AFL to an extent. You just get this 2-week bonanza of all the attentions on players, trades, where are they going? You can do it all then, and it just keeps footy keeps footy fans, engaged outside of footy season as well. I think that's the other positive to it.
Yep.
Just on that as well, before we get stuck into that, as you said, 27-week season. The reality is, we have round 0 now. It's a 28-week season. We have the All Stars, which we all love, and I remember when I was a kid, the preseason trials used to be on. You used to get up on a Sunday morning and read the paper to get the results. Now they're all on TV. We're all consuming that. It's a 35-week season, essentially.
Good point.
Yeah, and then you get internationals thrown at you. And, as you said, we're talking from a fan perspective, but even something I didn't even ever consider. But, talking to players the other day, and that was what I was saying, the hardest thing is that we have this 8-week period where we get our break. All of our mates are having weddings. They're doing it, and you've got to jam everything into this 8-week period. Then you get 4 weeks thrown into internationals. Guys are back into preseason.
And you've got to still train these days. The idea that they just go away for 8 weeks and they don't speak, they've got programs they're all going to do. They're not just going away. If you do that, you're pretty much going to get cut.
Yeah, and you probably need that time just for your body to put itself back together.
Yeah. So look, I know it's the age-old argument, the boys get big payments because of the long years, so I understand that. But I'm actually, I think all of us from a fan perspective, I think that maybe less would be more. But anyway.
Before we move on, mate, and while we're venting and getting things off our chest, flying, so flew from Perth last night. Look, plane was delayed. I can cop that. I'm all good with that. They need to get the aircraft safe. Things happen. Weather conditions happen. Had a delayed flight. I think the reason my flight was delayed was because the loo was out of order and they had to sort the loo out. So I'm like, there was 3 loos on the toilet. We can go without one of them. But, mate, brought to you by Grumpy Coffee. I hate when a plane lands and that little buzzer goes and people just jump to their feet and flood the aisles, ready to tear off it. And then they stand there like idiots for 15 minutes and everyone's just crowded and annoyed, and it does my head in to get themselves off the plane 45 seconds. You're one of those weirdos, aren't you?
No. What I was about to say, why are you throwing stones, mate? Just relax. Bloody Jesus Christ. Have a coffee and relax, mate. I agree with you, people are way too aggressive with that. So that's one level of the way too aggressive with that. But what really grinds my gears is people that push in. So they get up, they walk past their seat, so they might begin to walk immediately and try to beat everyone off the plane by 10 seconds. Bro, who gives a shit? It's 10 seconds. Yeah. It's 10 seconds of your life. Relax.
And then everyone's in a shit mood because of it, and it's just you're achieving nothing. Everyone just needs to relax and stay in their seat.
Speaking of flights, I also had my flights today on the weekend. 3 hours on the way home, an hour and a half on the way there. So I went down to the Caulfield Cup thanks to Sportsbet, and I won the wooden spoon at cooking. So I came last at cooking, and Volkanovski gave this to me. And I asked Sportsbet if I could have it, and they gloriously and very, very politely gave it to me. So I appreciate that, Sportsbet. Alex Volkanovski gave me the wooden spoon for cooking. Worst cooker of the whole day.
Did you check baggage that, or did you?
Just walked it on. So when I went down just almost freeballing. As in, like, no bag or anything like that. Just in my suit. Yeah. In my suit. I had undies on, Rude. Jesus Christ. It was a metaphor. And so, yeah, I just come back with this, but I had to sit around in an airport for 3 hours with this next to me.
So you're in your suit at the airport just walking through with a wooden spoon?
Yes, with a wooden spoon. So there, Alex Volkanovski is giving me the wooden spoon because I can't cook. Anyway.
That's right up there with the time I took the Harold Matts Trophy to New Zealand and sat it on my lap the entire flight.
Alrighty, it is time for Australia versus Tonga review, and that is brought to you by brand new movie coming to cinemas October 31st. So next Thursday, it's an Aussie masterpiece movie coming out called The Red. And it's the Kangaroos versus Tonga review, and this movie is literally about a killer kangaroo that goes around killing people. Go to YouTube, check the trailer out. It's an absolute piss take. It's unbelievable. October 31st is an Aussie movie. It's called The Red, and it's genuinely about a killer kangaroo going around killing people. Now, listen, it's almost like a bloke that drinks too much beer and likes to fight. That's what the kangaroo's like. It's an Aussie classic, guys. It's made by an Australian company. So that's October 31st. It will be in cinemas. It's obviously a piss take on the horror genre, but it's actually, it's fun. It's funny. It's called The Red, October 31st. Next week it comes out. Make sure to go into the cinemas. Support Aussie cinema, guys. The more Aussie cinema we support, the more Aussie movies we can get like this. That's fun. And also, it's not like a crappy quality, shitty quality movie. It's high budget, high quality, funny acting. It's really good. It's called The Red, a killer kangaroo, and that's why it's brought to you. The Australian versus Tonga. The killer kangaroos got the job done. 18-0. You gonna go watch The Red, the killer kangaroo, Roo?
I will be, mate, and I wish our kangaroos had that killer instinct. We're a little bit off the mark, to be honest.
They need to watch the movie The Red next week, mate.
Yeah.
October 31st. Go and watch The Red, guys. It's literally about a murderous kangaroo out bush killing people. And there's a policeman that has to track down this murderous kangaroo. And who knows? The twist may be that the kangaroo is just a misunderstood kangaroo that might...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Anyway, The Red, October 31st, guys. Aussie Cinema, get around it. And a massive thank you for The Red for partnering with the show. And I know the producers that got this movie together. They're absolute legends, guys. They started their production company from nothing as well. So get around them. October 31st. Alrighty. Australia beat Tonga 18-0. Look, my thoughts with this game is, I think everyone can kind of agree. I won't be too quick on the review because we've got the transfers to get to. But there was a very obvious kind of flow to this game, and that was Australia's defence was really good, but so clunky, so many mistakes. To head into an international game and complete it about 60% or 65% obviously isn't up to standard. However, the positive is the defence was good. So that means their attitude is in the right place, which we all know Mal Meninga is really good at getting the cultural side of things right, getting the attitude side of things right. They've just got to find a way to sort out that attack and the completion rate. Tonga, I think Tonga should be really happy with their performance. Unfortunately, Katoa just had a really bad night. If his kicking game was a couple metres shorter, I think this genuinely, they're in the fight to win the match. Roo, what do you think?
Yeah, I sort of agree on all fronts. I think, especially with Isaiah Katoa, if that 40-20 lands, I reckon it's a different game of football. Kellen Coleman-Tungi, he drops the ball over the line as well.
Who kicks out in the full-on kickoffs?
That's the unforgivable stuff. You can't get that wrong. But I thought there was a number of moments in this game where I respect Katoa. At least he was out there trying to win this game, not just sort of go through the motions. He'll be much better for the run.
Well, that's the important thing for the Katoa.
Yep.
He needs to make sure he learns from this about being overstimulated, overhyped for a situation, and all the great halfbacks will tell you sometimes less is more. Sometimes less is more.
Yeah, I loved, I'm sure if you saw him on Instagram after, just took full responsibility for it. That's what you want to see from your halfbacks and at his age. I love to see that. As far as Kangaroos go, mate, I agree with what you said. It was scrappy, but, I mean, they kind of look like a side that had their halves pairing together for the first time. It was missing their best front row forward, that had guys that hadn't played much footy together before. I think that they will just get better and better with each game they play in this series.
And that's why, I love the fact their defence was good. I love the fact that this wasn't, 32-20 game because they got the tough stuff right. Now, let's get the easy part right. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, look, complete at 61%. So horrific for any side ever. And I thought he said, very clunky in attack, but he said the key thing is the defence. I think the attack will come. Guru sort of alluded to, the halves. Tommy did, and then Harry Grant, handful of games together. Dill Edwards, Mitch Moses, I believe, 2 games together in Origin this year. So it's going to take time. You put a new group of blokes together, new combinations all over the place. It never clicks straight away. Yeah. So you give them a game against the Kiwis this weekend, hopefully then for the Kangaroos into a final after that. Combinations will start to come together. As you said, the defence is the backbone, and Tonga, their attack was pretty underwhelming, but they're packed through plenty at them. They had enough momentum through the middle where they should have been creating opportunities, and they didn't really look likely all game. So their defence is where it needs to be, and the Kangaroos, what ended up being it was a very dominant performance.
I think that really the difference was that, the kicking game with Katoa, that situation there, but really it was the outside backs for Australia. They were substantially better. Obviously both the centres, Tommy and Hammer, killed it. But you go and look at the wingers. Xavier Coates, he ran for, he was outstanding. I tell you what, I reckon that first half of the grand final has really stayed with Xavier because he was really quiet in the first half of the grand final. And he actually came out in the second half and he got his hands on the ball so much, he ended up running for 160, 70 metres in just the second half. But the outside backs is what I really felt was the difference between the two sides. I think that if we went into that game, let's say the outside backs played the same as each other, I think it's an 8-6 grind fest. So Xavier Coates, he had 23 runs, 247 metres. Hammer, 157 metres. Tommy, 227 metres. And Zach Lomax, 155 metres. So I just think that was the real difference. You go across the other side, you've got Lehigh, he had 168. Dylan Edwards had 170. Daniel Tupou, 122. Sully, 185, who I thought was actually outstanding outside of, one or two defensive things. Paul Alamotti, 79 metres. Katoa, 75 metres. There's a real key difference there, in my opinion. If anything, I thought Tonga's forwards got the better of Australian forwards.
Thought they did for sure.
Yeah.
Thought it was interesting too. You have a look at the right side of Tonga. You had Isaiah Katoa, Paul Alamotti, and Eli Katoa. First time they'd ever defended together. The Kangaroos made them combine for 90 tackles.
Wow,
it's incredible effort. And, they missed 14. That's an 85% tackle efficiency. I almost sort of take that in your first game. You're going to get Angus Crichton, Hamiso, Turbo floating around. They really peppered him, and it was far from a disaster out on that edge, I thought.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
it's true to sit there and go, I'm with you, Campy. I thought certainly for the first half at least, Tonga's forward pack, they are absolutely up for this battle, and on paper, as it should be. On paper, they're every bit as good as what the Australian pack is, and even you look at the bench that they had coming off as well. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy.
It's just the same old story, sort of time and time again with Tonga. It's just weighing up the class of the two spines. There's a reason they scored 0 points because Australia's defence is exceptional, but while they were in the forward battle, they had the momentum through the middle. They just between Lehigh Hopewade, who's a future star, but so raw early on in his career. Again, Isaiah Katoa tried everything. You talk about his night with the boot. He was just a couple of inches off the perfect night with the boot, but just everything went a couple of inches too far. Could not get it to land for him. Tui Lolohea. I actually thought Lolohea went okay, but at the same time, he's been a staple of this side for many years. They're just missing a classy sort of six to go alongside Katoa or whoever it might be. Saliva Havili, he's a middle bench forward for the Rabbitohs. They're just missing a star. That being said, with the development of Katoa and Hopewade in years to come, they're well placed, but right now, just different pages, the two spines of these
For the
sides.
first time ever, though, you can see what this side, the halves, are going to look like in 5 years' time.
And also, like, although they didn't score any points, they still looked way smoother when they did get down good ball. Disappointing night for Katoa. I just think that, Lola here probably is. I probably don't see him there over the next few years. If they can land a 6, soon, then who knows like what they could be. It really.
Yeah, well, it's sort of disappointing from a Tongan perspective. Like, I don't think Latu Fanu's going to get a gig in your West Tigers side next year. He might come off the bench. I think he'll be the guy that'll be the 5'8" with him.
Yeah,
I think he's probably the best option. I'm not sure if he's in this squad or if he's not available or whatever, but he'd be the guy that I think is the one to go with. But I mean, I say he should have been in the squad. Maybe he's the guy. Right now, he's probably not. It's probably not worth having those two young guys there. Lolohea might not be a 5'8", but he's an experienced guy that you can have in that side at least.
Yeah.
No, you look ahead, Roo. If I'm Tonga, I'm looking at that, the World Cup, 2026, and I'm just going, why can't we win it?
Yeah.
And then, again, looking at the spine, but you go 2 more years' time. Isaiah Katoa and Latu Fainu, look, being eased into his NRL career, and that's absolutely fine, and as he should be, but 2 more years, time in the NRL, a few more caps under his belt as we go down the track for Tonga. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but another bloke who, Sonny Luke, if he can just hit his straps as that number 9
He played
for
really
them,
well.
Yeah, he did.
One of the best games I've seen Sonny Luke play.
Like, if I'm there, I'm speaking to these boys and I'm saying, why can't we win the World Cup in 2026? And they're still a long way off it, but the way they're building towards it, the pack they've got the team where they can do it.
Yeah. No, mate.
Or at least they can believe they can do it. Like,
Yeah,
it's
for
realistic.
Sure. Well, I mean, again, it's just all about, can they execute a game plan that suits the team they have? Because they have such an incredible forward pack that if they could somehow build a game plan that takes advantage of that. Like, for example, as I said, imagine if Katoa gets a 40-20, doesn't kick it out twice on the full, and doesn't have that 7 tackle set. Like, all of a sudden, it's 8-6 or something like that. It's not really a matter of, like, then the game's close. Then there's, I'm not saying that Tonga gave up at all, because I felt like they really did hang in there. But there is such a thing as scoreboard pressure. Like, if you're 8-6 in a game with 20 to go, rather than 14-0 down, it's just human nature. Like, you're in the game, and so I think that I personally think there was a foundation that was laid by the forward pack to make this game super competitive.
Just having a look through players that are actually available to represent Tonga, he is just about the only 5'8" that's on there, Latu Fainu. So the only problem is at the West Tigers, he's just not going to get in the side.
We're too stacked, mate. Can't get in there. Can't get in there.
What do you reckon, Hammy, about Tonga?
I thought they showed a lot of grit and a lot of heart, and I think there's definitely something there for them to build on for the next couple of years. But I think the Aussies obviously a little bit clunky, but probably just showed like the golfing class between the two. They were able to win.
I thought Lehigh Opawade, I know he got sin bin, but he made 11 tackles in that game. I feel like 6 of them were try savers.
Unbelievable. He is so strong for his size. It's a joke.
And you know what? In the last 2 weeks of the season, for the first time, I thought, he looks a little bit smaller. Like in those last 2 games, going up against the Kangaroos, he looked enormous. Like he was, as I said, he got sin bin. I get it, but he literally got sin bin saving a try as well.
The notes there. Oh, but save tries, sin bin, comes back on the field. Try saver on Mitch Moses with 10 left. Gives him, keeps him in the hunt if nothing else. Yeah. Try saver on Harry Grant with a few minutes to go. The tackles he made, and he made one on Tommy Turbo, I believe, as well, which is an unbelievable try saver. Defensively, for a little bloke playing fullback,
crazy.
That tackle he made on Cam Murray, you could write a list of fullbacks that are on 700k plus that wouldn't have made that.
No, mate, he was incredible. What did you think about the 10? I saw some commentators. I thought it was 10 in the bin. What do you think?
Yeah, I thought it was 10 in the bin. I think it's a tough one, but it is 10 in the bin. I think
that's not tough at all. It's 100% 10 in the bin. Yeah, professional foul.
Well, some of the commentators that I was watching. So I was on watching after the game. So obviously during the game they didn't say much, but after the game, some of the commentators were like, "No, I don't think it was 10 in the bin." I was like,
"What?"
I thought for sure 10 in the bin. Well, their argument was he was just trying to get him back into marker and just kind of...
It was off the back of the Cam Murray line.
Yeah.
Right?
So he was never...
Line was broken, quick play the ball, Grant scoops up, goes, and he...
Try saving, professional foul
in a try saving. He doesn't get back to marker. It's 100% a sin bin.
Yeah, I thought it was a sin bin. Did you think it was a sin bin?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it had to be.
But Lehigh Opawade, I mean, for him to play that well especially on the back foot in the second half to a degree. Like the future for this game. What I find most interesting about this game as well, not even one of the biggest takeaways, is how much I walked away from it and it didn't feel like the old international games. It felt like a game between two sides that were just almost that were on each other's level. Yep. Like I feel like if you watched international footy 5 years ago and it was Australia versus Tonga, you could just see the huge gulf in difference. I didn't walk away and watch that. It looked to me like two teams are like essentially on the same level, except maybe one had more experience in key positions.
As Tim said, if Katoa gets 3 of those kicks a metre shorter, it's a different game of football.
So like it's exciting with Lehigh as well. Like I tell you what, after seeing that and after seeing what we've seen during the season, surely Manly, anytime Tommy's not in the side, put him at fullback.
Isn't it crazy though? Like the end of last season, Kohler plays fullback for the last 2 games. He absolutely kills it, and everyone's he's the fullback after Tommy. He's locked in to be the Tongan fullback for the future. Most people didn't even know who Lehigh was at that point. His rise has been unbelievable. Like Kohler can't get into the Manly or the Tongan side now.
Crazy.
Just on that, look, I'm an unabashed Toltau Kohler fan. I think he's superb. Paul Alamotti was like one of the revelations of the NRL finals, but he also couldn't make the Panthers side at stages during the season. No knock on him, and congratulations for him getting the call up from, we didn't know where he was going to be sort of 12 months ago, where he was struggling at the Bulldogs in his first full year in the NRL. Kohler's my centre every day of the week. I think Kohler is a more established player. I think he's a better defensive centre. What do you boys think? And I think...
I guess you could argue that Kohler couldn't make the Manly side for a period there. I know he was on the bench. And, Manly fans have disputed this, but like the reason why he got back into the side was because Saab got injured. When they were at full strength, he was on the bench.
What am I missing with Tolutau Kohler then? Because I even look at this and I think the game plan of Mal Meninga suggests this exact same thing. Paul Alamotti was forced to make 25 tackles, missed 6. Moses Sully made 6 on the other edge, missed 1. I'm just like...
I probably would have picked Kohler. I
can't believe it wasn't Kohler. I can believe it, but if it was me, I'm having Kohler every day of the week.
I would have picked Kohler at centre, and I would have had Alamotti off my bench, jersey 17. I think he's big enough to be able to go through the middle for
so
20
big.
minutes.
I mean, just quickly on Alamotti, I know we had 6 misses, but when you actually watch the game, most of them was him like getting bounced off and then hammered coming back inside. His defence for most of the night outside of that try was pretty good actually.
And that's not to say Alamotti had a bad night.
That's what I mean. I was about to say, mate.
Yeah, no, he was fine.
Him in attack, like when he runs the ball and actually like rips in.
Kohler, I'd like to know, and do the transfer show next week and what teams need and don't need. I wonder what Tolutau Kohler's being valued at, because he's an unbelievable defensive centre. He's lightning quick. He's got great support play. What would he be on? We'll probably find out. I'll have a look. But what do you reckon? What would you pay for Tolutau Kohler?
I just think a really interesting point on him too, like how good he is in defence. Like it feels like for 3 or 4 years we've been talking about, DC in defence, how that edge struggles, except for just this 1 year period where we stopped talking about it when Kohler was on that edge.
Yeah.
And then he moved to the other side and all of a sudden it appeared again this year.
Yeah. I'd probably, mate, I'd pay about 400, I reckon, for him. I'd pay about 400, I reckon.
I'd be happy to pay more than that.
I'd pay more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah. How much would you pay for Kohler?
I'd like this 5 or 6. I think he's very underrated.
This is a 22-year-old who said the biggest thing, we know he can attack. We know he's lightning quick. He's a good defensive centre. There's not that many of them out there. Especially, as I said, at 22 years old. And I look at Stephen Crichton, who's probably the best defensive centre in the game now. Early on in his career, he had his defensive lapses. He had his mistakes and that, and he's, I won't say turned it around because he wasn't bad, but he had issues. Tolutau Kohler, I'd give him 600.
Wow. Jeez, okay. No, I just, as a rookie outside back, I know he's not a rookie, but he's 22 years old, hasn't played rep footy. I think if you start paying guys at that level of their career that much money, geez, your cap's going to go quick.
But he can play fullback as well. He's big one. You're not just getting a centre. You got a bloke who we've seen him excel in little opportunities at fullback as well. I said he is 22, so if I'm a club, I'd be looking to get him on a 4-year deal worth 600, because I think in a year or two, I think he could be worth 600 plus potentially. I think he can be that good.
I think it's just opportunity standing in his way.
Yeah.
I can cop him picking Alamotti though, Tonga, over Cole. I think he's particularly his last probably 2 months of footy very good. I thought he was defensively very good for the Panthers as well. Just won a comp at centre. Obviously scored in the grand final, scored in some important games. Cole is a good player, but I can understand why they went with Alamotti.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not definitely like harsh against the Alamotti selection because I do think his final series was really good.
You know, we just spoke about the Penrith players and how a lot of them, and these stars of the NRL, have struggled to, you know, necessarily transfer it over to the international level. I don't want to sound negative on Paul Alamotti because, as I said, he was one of the storylines of 2024, and we spoke about that in the grand final review and last week. But he's done that for the Penrith Panthers. Like a year earlier at the Bulldogs, he was struggling, and you're like, oh, you know, what's his future look like in the NRL? He did it for a Panthers system. It's different going into a Tongan system. It's like,
Yeah.
it's more about how much I think of Tolutau Kola.
Yeah, more about how much you rate him. It's Matt. I think it's Matt Cameron, the CEO of Panthers. He was on the buy round, and I just saw some clips from that. And they talked about how Alamotti, that whole contract really just came from the coffee test. They sat down had a chat with him, and they just loved what they saw, and then they progressed from there. So, like the implication that I was reading was there wasn't really that much interest from Panthers until they actually sat down with him, and they just such a good young fella. That they were like, you know what, there's something here for this kid, and then they built it. But yeah, it's a really interesting listen to hear what I have loved about the Penrith Panthers during this period of success is how open a lot of their staff have been about doing interviews and stuff like that. So we get an insight into greatness. I do think like when Melbourne Storm, and maybe it's because they're in Melbourne that we don't hear as much, but you didn't used to hear that much out of Melbourne Storm as to how they did their whole system and that. You didn't really hear much from the people at top. Really interesting yarn from Cameron on the buy round, just about how, like, basically he reckons that they have aside from 2 or 3 players, they have their starting 13, what they hope it to be, locked in till 2028.
Oh, Jesus.
Which is like that. We speak about it quite a lot how salary caps are planned 5 years in advance, but to hear it from their mouth of going like this is kind of we have our starting 13 hopefully locked in, aside from 2 or 3 players. So like just shows you what strong position the club's in.
Yeah, wow.
Great little chat to hear him talk about that.
Just on Kohler, just having a look at his first 10 games in this season when he was playing centre, he went below 150 run metres 3 times.
Well,
great defensively.
It's just like with that Manly backline, it's crazy the depth that they've got that is at full strength.
Yeah.
What do you do?
It's incredible.
At full strength, what do? You go Tommy at the back, Saab on one wing, Garrick on the other.
Yep.
And then you would go probably Kohler,
Tommy Talau.
But then Lehigh's not in. Yeah, far out.
Well,
I wouldn't be leaving Kohler out of my Manly backline. I'd be finding a spot for him.
Not a chance. I mean, we've all said, like, we like Ruben Garrick on the wing, but he's also had some success at centre. Sounds like he wants to play centre ideally. So, look, I'm happy to go Lehigh on the wing, and Garrick at centre, no Tommy Talau. Yeah, if that's how you're getting Kohler in, then I'm doing it for sure.
What a great spot for Manly to be in. They've got such a young gun back line. I mean, Tommy Talau's season was outstanding. But yeah, back to the Tongan side. Your man, Moses Suley, what a game. 19 runs, 185 metres, 77 post-contact, 4 tackle breaks, 6 tackles, only 1 miss, no errors. He like, for some reason, when he gets through his work, it just isn't recognised enough. Like, he does this pretty regularly, these games where he run for like 180 metres and no one talks about it. Like, it's I don't know what it is, like where some people stand out when they run and some people don't.
People care about attacking stats at centre. And look, I won't beat down the bush of his defence, which he's again shown how effective it is at international level. But at the Dragons, and I've said it time and time again, but they lay to the left and they just go right. It's why Zach Lomax had an absolute field day, scored a ton of tries this year, because they'd go right to Ben Hunt, to Zach Lomax, and it was just all their tackles down the right edge. So Sully didn't have a ton of attacking stats, so he just gets missed, and it's like, cool, he does his good metres out of yardage and runs for his 180 metres, but, particularly media outlets and whatnot, and, people talking about the game, they want flash, they want attacking stats, they want tries, and he doesn't necessarily bring that to the Dragons because of their structure. but he's another one that I don't know what Moses Sully's getting paid, but I'd be confident to say that it's heavy unders.
Sully played 19 games this year for the Dragons. In 15 of them, he had 1 or less missed tackles. Incredible.
Yeah, it's such a good record. Like at centre, it is so hard to defend there. I thought unfortunately, Sione Katoa had a poor night.
Yeah.
And just with Katoa, like, he does it with the Sharks too. In big games, every now and then a big game, not in every big game, but every now and then a big game, he will just have not a great night. And he's just got to sort that. Remember when they played Penrith earlier this year, and like it really was the question for the Sharkies of like, are you the real deal early in the middle of the year? And I just remember Katoa coming out and having the worst game of the season for him. And it's just like, he's just got to find a way, because like for 90% of his games, he is so friggin' good. Underrated. It's just those 10% where he would just, I don't know what happens. It just switches off. Something happens. Not concentrating or preparation. You just got to find a way to, I guess, just raise the the floor of his lower games, I reckon.
And that's the thing. It's not that he's not capable of it.
Oh, he's a gun.
Look at his day. He's one of the best wingers in the game.
Mate, his right foot step is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But he just got to find a way to not have these kind of games.
I feel like, boys, just looking at this Tongan side, there's so much potential there. And look, maybe they are lacking a bit of class at the moment and at their age. You know, Katoa, Hopewade, around the spine, which might limit points a little bit. But because their pack is so good, I think they can run a pretty simple sort of game plan and just focus on just that shape around the ruck, around this superstar forward pack that they've got running. And as I said, like, players go off, coming on, Kalama-Tangi, Paseka, Tupanua, Sonny Luke. Like, there's so much star power. You've got 2 of the best edge back rows in the game, probably number 2 and 3 in the game this season in Olakuatu and Eli Katoa. I'd just be running shape around the ruck, edge to edge, and hitting those guys. Don't need to play too expansively. Don't need to hit your centres, your wings, playing out the back too much. And then I just have this little budding superstar in Leho Hopewade just sniffing off the back of Katoa and Olakuatu, because they were both very good. In particular, Olakuatu, like, it's like he gets better every game. Again, 18-0, no points on the board, but he's just devastating. Every time he ran the ball, the arms free, I'd be saying, Lehigh, just sit off these 2 hips and I'd be running that shape.
Yeah, almost getting like Lehigh to sit around the edge back rowers at times and have plays just like, mate, I just need you to, for the whole set, just stay around the edge.
You just run that normal backline sort of sweep shape, and then you play short, but you have Lehigh going, mate, when we go on short, you get up, get deep, and just wait for them to offload, because they'll get their arms free, and you need to be there. Like, it's what Felice Kafusi, Billy Slater, Kenny Bromwich, Billy Slater, they did it for years and years and years, and as soon as they'd have their arm free, because Slater was running that sweeping line, he'd be at top speed, and he'd just be there to get it off their hip.
Yep. So one bloke I was watching really closely in the Tongan side was Jason Taumalolo, because I just wanted to get a gauge, and I know that we're probably speaking out of turn, and I know Cowboys fans don't like this, but there's just this feeling of everything not quite right, Taumalolo at the Cowboys. We've heard talks about them trying to offload him, and then no, it's not true, it is true, or whatever. And so I was watching him closely to be like, if he comes out and explodes, then that would suggest to me that, because at the start of the year, we were literally told by the Cowboys the reason why his minutes are limits because his knee's gone. I watched him on the weekend. He looked pretty energetic. Granted, I understand it's not a whole season, but I know it's for his country as well. I get it. So you can't expect him to be as intense for club for a whole year as he is for his country. But he looked more intense to me, and I just worry that. Is that a sign that it's not so rosy between Taumalolo and the Cowboys? I don't know. Pure speculation, guys. I'm not suggesting I know that it is or it isn't. It was just something I wanted to watch, and he did seem quite intense when he was playing.
He did look good, and as you said, like, playing for his nation, he's had 3 or 4 weeks to prepare for that game. But, yeah, just the week-to-week what you're getting up there in North Queensland, and you still, like, you see it every 3 or 4 weeks. You go, there's Taumalolo, here he is. But just can't seem to do it week to week up there.
And there's just always these like little whispers that come out every now and then the Cowboys about offloading, and then they quieten it down, they come back up. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I mean, the big picture in the Cowboys, I'm not sure, because I thought he had a good year for the Cowboys, but he was devastating. Particularly that first stint, I thought he was really, really good. And, Tonga had a lot of success through the middle. They had a lot of ball. Australia made a lot of mistakes. They sort of, unfortunately, from a Tongan perspective, they couldn't punish the Kangaroos. But Taumalola was a big part of that go forward in the early stage of this game. Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah, and look, it's highly likely that the fact that it's essentially a one-off game that we've seen so far, that's why he did kill it, because his knee he's had 3 or 4 weeks, well, probably longer, for his knee to settle down and be good to go. That is 100% a possibility. For example, if he comes out the next time they play and does it again week on week, you just get a little bit worried that, I don't know, I just get this feeling that it's not going to end as well as I think everyone hoped it would have ended when they first signed the 10-year deal.
And it's tough because he has still got so much longer to go and it's so much money. Like I would have thought by now there would have been clubs that would have been willing to take some of it on board. Like I look at the Canterbury Bulldogs, I think he'd be such a good fit down there, but it's just so much fucking money for an aging middle forward.
Yeah.
Like personally, I thought he was really good on the weekend. I would still be starting with Keon in jersey 13 personally.
Yeah, okay, just get him through them and then bring Taumalola on for impact.
Yeah, for impact, yeah. And I think Keon as well. We'll talk about him soon, but I think he just needs to go north and south.
Yeah, keep it simple.
I think he tried to overcomplicate things a little bit the other night.
Yeah, with some of those passing and that. Yeah, I mean, he's such an interesting player, Keon, because he has so much weapons in the, and he can ball play and he can offload. He's got great footwork, and yet we've seen some of the best footy he's ever played when he was in the middle, and he was literally just going.
And that's where I'd sort of be tempted to just put the 8 or the 10 on his jersey. Yeah, just to take that. I just think he's so good when he just goes up and down. And with him and Adam Fanua-Blake, like the Tongan forward pack got the better of the Kangaroos, I thought, for the most part. Like if they just had him going up and down, they would have bullied them.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Hammy?
Yeah, about Keon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm inclined to agree. I think you probably want to maximise his impact and give him the best opportunity to be out there and impact on the game. And I think you're probably right, Rudy's in the middle. He was so good at that. I think he made the team of the week. It felt like we're just going Control-C, Control-V through the season when he was playing at 13. But anywhere there in the middle, I mean, this forward pack was so good as it was. But, couldn't be any harm keeping him out there a little bit longer. I'm with you, though, Kempy. I was interested about Taumalola as well. He played 48 minutes in this game and he was averaging, 38 or something like that for the Cowboys through the year. So I found that pretty interesting as well. I reckon I'll probably keep him there, though, to Rue's point. Like, he's the captain. I don't think they'll be starting him off the bench or anything like that. You'd imagine they'll probably keep him out there in the middle. But, they've got to probably find a way to get Colin Matangi out there just to be a little bit more involved in the game. But, their forward pack looked really good.
Yeah. Now, just quickly on Isaiah Katoa, we've already spoken about him. I hope he learns from this, this game. He did still kick for 668 metres. So you definitely don't want kicking out on the full and the 7 tackle sets, but you don't also want to go, mate, put the boot away and don't kick for 668 minutes compared to Mitchell Moses, who kicked for about 350 metres. So he kicked for 668 from 18 kicks, and Mitchell Moses had 14 kicks, 353. So his boot was huge.
It was, and you know what? In this side, it has to be. You're not going to get that out of Lolohea. Neither of the hookers can really kick. Like, I think that's the other thing people need to keep in mind. Like, he's under a lot of pressure in that side. Like, everything has to go through him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got the weight of the entire history of Tonga on his back, because what is the one thing they've been waiting for? It is a 7 that can lead a team around. And so he, heading into that game, he would have felt like he needed to do everything. And I think that it's a really good lesson for him to learn. And he's so young. He's, 20 years old. Just to, keep it real simple, at least for the first half. Just get your eye in, keep it really simple, make your tackles, get to your kick, make your tackles, get to your kick, and then, try to add that little flourish on the end, the extra stuff.
And if I'm him or a Tongan fan, I'm going, okay, like the kicking game couldn't have got much worse in that game. It was close, but it couldn't have got much worse. They threw an intercept for the first try. They lost 18 points to 0. They bombed 2 or 3 tries.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tonga were absolutely in this game. Like Keon goes over for that try. Who knows what could have happened.
Even like the Tommy Dearden try, 78th minute. Awesome try, but it was game over, went through, some lazy defence.
Injured Olakawatu too.
Yeah, if the game's on the line, Tom Dearden doesn't score that try.
No, I don't think so. So look, I think this is one of the better Tonga performances. I really do. Like it, you can clearly see the little things to tweak, and all of a sudden it's a very tight match against an Australian side that, at the very least, this Australian side didn't take it lightly. I didn't watch the Australian side and go, geez, I wish they would, rip in more. Like they were playing at the best of their ability.
Can you see them beating the Australian side anytime soon with this current spine?
I think so. Honestly, mate, I think a few things go their way in this game. And I know people will get frustrated and go, oh, well, the Tommy intercept. It did happen but if that intercept doesn't happen, and then, Keon scores that try and he gets that 40-20, like these are all these little moments that sometimes they fall your way.
And I agree in a sense, but if we're looking at the little things that could have gone their way, Tommy Trbojevic dropped one an inch from the line. He was held up an inch from the line. Cam Murray granted terrific tackle. Lehigh Hopewade, Bursloo could have been another. It also could have been 32-0.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been, but in certain games, sometimes everything goes your way. And that's what I'm saying. If everything goes Tonga's way, whereas in the past, everything could have gone Tonga's way and they still lose by, 12 points or even more. Mate, I absolutely think they could. I really think that, especially in the first half, I felt like their forward pack laid a good enough foundation. Unfortunately, I just thought that the 6 and 7 for Tonga just didn't have the best games.
I think it's worked out really good for them that they get this week off. They got 2 weeks to prepare for that New Zealand game. And New Zealand, it's a great side. They beat the Kangaroos 30-0. Like, they're missing a lot of players.
Yeah.
There's a lot of troops missing from that side.
They can beat them.
Bloody hope they can beat them, yeah.
Yeah. And so, both teams at their best, no, I don't think Tonga can beat Australia. The same thing that happened on the weekend where Australia aren't at their best, but a tiny few things go their way, then Australia wins. But I do believe that this side is good enough where if everything clicked for them, they have the players on the field to win the game. Whereas, 5-6 years ago, I know they beat them in 2019, but before that period, you could seriously every call could go their way, everything go their way, and they still probably wouldn't be able to manage to win. I really like what I see from this Tongan side, and I just even you look at just looking at the actual when the tries were scored and that. So in the first half, there was 1 try scored, and it was an intercept.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If that doesn't happen and Tonga score instead, all of a sudden they go in 6-0. It's just a different environment that they're running out into.
They're just crying out for a crafty number 9 to get in behind this, because the pack is so devastating.
That's why Sonny Luke did so well, I reckon.
And that's what I mean. And Sonny Luke could be that man.
Yeah.
Who knows? And we've sort of spoken about it. He just doesn't seem to suit the Penrith system, Sonny Luke. He just...
what's interesting about that?
Yeah.
So Matt Cameron was talking about how Api Coruscant, when he came to the club and he got replaced by Mitch Kenny, and that he said the reason why Api Coruscant was brought in was basically our halves weren't ready to take on the responsibility they probably needed to. And again, guys, I'm paraphrasing. And so it was really important that Api got the ball first all the time because he's such a skilled ball player. He said, but by the time Api had moved on, our halves had developed enough where it wasn't necessary for Api to be the first one to touch the ball, or not the first one, but to have the ball all the time. And we could slot Mitch Kenny in there because our halves had developed so much that they need the ball in their hands immediately. And I think that that's what's happened with Sonny Luke, is that he's so similar to Api in the sense that he's so creative, where when he plays for the Panthers, it's not his job to try and create space around the ruck. It's Cleary's job and Luai's job. Whereas before, it was Api's job to create around the ruck.
Which is where I feel sorry for Sonny Luke, because you go watch their reserve grade side, it is his job.
Yeah.
Because every other club keeps buying all these halfbacks off Penrith from reserve grade, and Sonny Luke does incredibly well down there.
Yeah.
Just doesn't seem to gel. And even that, that's another thing. He's a very unique hooker to play with. I think that was Isaiah Katoa's first time playing with him too. So there's that element too that made it tough.
True.
He looked good in the lime green, Sonny Luke.
Mate, he'd actually be perfect for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly what you need.
Yeah, I'm not even taking the piss. And that's it. So maybe I just don't. I just don't think he suits what Penrith are about right now. Mitch Kenny's perfect. They couldn't be more different number 9s. But given the opportunity at another club, maybe he can be it for Tonga. And he is that creative hooker behind this pack that could be devastating. So we'll see.
Alrighty, we'll get into Australia now. And don't forget, guys, next week is the transfer show where we go over what every club needs, what every squad needs. That is next week. We'll be dropping that deep dive into every club and what they need to be recruited to this team. Alrighty, the Kangaroos. We've already spoken about it in the hot take in regards to Dylan Edwards. Also, in the Hungriest Player, we've spoken about the Hammer. So go back to the Hammer there if you want to hear us speak about the Hammer. Let's get through the negative first. I thought Mitchell Moses was really underwhelming. However, first game back since essentially Origin, it is understandable. It is understandable. But I did think he was quite underwhelming.
I agree with everything you just said. Like, he was underwhelming, but it's his first game in 15 odd weeks. It's his first game for the Kangaroos. First game with Tom Dearden. First game with Harry Grant.
Edwards, yeah.
Yeah, like there's just there's a lot to take in there for Mitch Moses, realistically. So I
was just a bit surprised. I just thought he'd be a bit more dominant. I was a bit surprised at how long the game would go at times where... And look, I get it. It's his first time in an Australian jersey. I'm just so used to Mitchell Moses just being super dominant in an Eels jersey. And so it's not necessarily a knock on him because I understand it. You're in an Australian jersey. You don't want to just walk in and be like, I'm the man, give me the ball. But I just thought that he probably could have got involved a bit earlier at times. But it's hard to...
It's hard to criticise. Yeah. I think we'll learn a lot more this Sunday.
Yeah, it's super hard to be critical. Like, for example, I'm more critical of Dylan Edwards' performances than I am of Mitchell Moses' one because even though you can see that Dylan Edwards is a bit underdone, he just hasn't, for some bizarre reason, he just hasn't seemed to be able to click in an Australian jersey. It's so strange.
It is strange, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think first game since July
Origin
July
3,
17, Origin 3, long time out.
Yeah,
so it's definitely underwhelming, but I said new combos, playing for Australia. Again, as we said, really quite a dominant Tongan pack. But yeah, the crunch will come. He's blown the cobwebs out now. He's had a run. He'll be better for it. Kiwis this weekend, a massive game into more than likely a final. So reassess, in a couple of games' time. But yeah, underwhelming.
I think it's also worth noting, I think it was pretty evident their game plan was to go left. They forced that edge to make 90 odd tackles. That was Tommy Dearden's made edge there. So maybe it was part of it was just game plan too.
Now, I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I do think it's time. Isaiah Yeo is a front rower in rep footy. Bring Cam Murray into 13, put Isaiah Yeo, Paddy Carrigan to start, bring Lindsay Collins off the bench. I personally think that just for some reason in rep... Look, I think the reason why sometimes the Penrith Panthers struggle a little bit in rep footy is because that game plan of drop under, fatiguing club teams doesn't usually work in rep footy because you're against the fittest players in the competition. And so that's why I don't think it worked for New South Wales is you're in Origin, you're not going to out-fatigue a Queensland side. And so I just think with Isaiah Yeo, although I don't think he played poorly by any stretch, I just think we missed the leg speed of Cam Murray through the middle. I think we need to play him as a front rower in rep footy.
I think if Teddy was in this side still and he was the captain, I think Isaiah Yeo would have come off the bench. Yeah, I think because he was captain, they started him. Because I think, we learnt from Origin this year, didn't we? For me anyway, going Origin next year, Cam Murray's my 13 and Isaiah Yeo's coming off my bench.
So I would put him in the front row with Paddy, to start him there.
Yeah.
Because he plays like a front rower. He's great. He's really good at taking those hit-ups. And I just think the leg speed of Cam Murray is so vital to rep footy with the speed of it. I don't know. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I like him, I said, playing in that sort of front row rotation when you've got the option of Cam Murray at 13, which is definitely his best position. Not to say he can't kill it on the edge, even on the weekend. He had an unbelievable line break. But I just think, I know we spoke about it earlier in the year around your captain coming off the bench. I know you blokes hated it, but do we all agree, captain to your side, that Murray 13, Yo off the bench, coming on after 20, 25 minutes and essentially playing out the game is the best fit?
No, I like him as a front rower.
Starting.
I would start him with Paddy Carrigan.
Okay.
And bring Lindsay Collins off the bench.
Yeah, I'm happy for him to come on at the 20 to 25 minute mark and just play out the rest of the game. There's a bit more fatigue. He's got the footwork and he'll punch out 60 minutes a breeze, Isaiah Yeo. Yeah, I don't know. I see the argument against it. I know you boys, when we were talking about around Origin time, and I said I might have mentioned him or someone being a Blues captain. And I don't think I wanted Jake Trbojevic initially. I'm happy for Harry Grant or whoever it might be to be the captain on field for the first 20 minutes. Isaiah to come on, straight into that front row rotation, Cam Murray at lock. I think that's what's best for the football team. I don't think you lose anything by having your captain off the field for the first 20 minutes.
In this side, I would have been happy to have him starting. If Payne Haas is in this side, I 100% have Yo coming off the bench.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if Payne has to, you got to start Payne.
Yeah, I think in lieu of him, I'm happy to have him in the front row. As you say, Kempy, I probably agree that at rep footy, it works so well for Penrith having him at 13, but in some of these other teams, the work that he gets there anyway, he could easily do just be a genuine front rower. So, yeah, I'd probably be happy to have him in there as well.
Yeah. Look, maybe it could work from captain from the bench because he did come on for the Blues and he was captain when he came on the field. So
I just don't see any harm in it. Like it might be Cam Murray who actually starts. Then he might be your captain for the first 20 minutes. Like I think it's the best fit for the 17 and to win this game of football. I don't see why it matters him missing the first 20. They'll be all right without him.
Yeah. A little bit concerning that Lindsay Collins played 45 minutes and he only ran for 31 metres. Now I know Lindsay Collins is not a stat man, and you watch a game of footy with Lindsay Collins playing. He is one of the highest effort players you can ever see in your life. Obviously, I think the shot from Olakau'atu might have taken a little bit out in the poor fella.
Well, can't blame him for that.
And if that was clubland, he probably gets a penalty. But I like that they let it go. Just a little bit. In this Pacific Championship, we probably need our front rower to do a little bit, be able to run for a little bit more metres with such big forward packs.
Mate, he looked like the personification of a long season to me.
Yeah.
Just looked fucking exhausted.
Yeah. Because he is truly like, you've got the spirit of the pack for the Roosters, but when it comes to heart and soul and doing all the little stuff, like, he does it all.
Yeah, does it all, yeah. Yeah, he was very underwhelming in this one. 31 metres.
13 post-contact metres in 45 minutes. Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, he did make 38 tackles, like I said. I'm not, not saying he didn't work his ass off, but I just think in a Pacific Championship, you need your front row to probably, and that's why I think bench is a better spot for him. Take the sting out of the game a little bit, bring him on and just go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's remarkable, isn't it? 4 runs in 45 minutes for a starting front rower.
Yeah. And so Paddy, who is probably is definitely a smaller body, he still ran for 104 metres, in how long? In 49 minutes. So about the same. And actually, I think he might have made more tackles too.
Yeah, like that's where I look at this game coming this weekend against New Zealand. Like, we're going to need much more than that.
So, I just look at that and I go, is there a way to tweak that? You get Isaiah Yeo on there. You know he's going to run for his 100. He's going to work his butt off. Anyway, just a thought. Outside of that, I just love Cam Murray's work. Everything he does is just so high quality. Like, just little things like it's in the middle of the game. It might have been like the 15th minute or whatever. And he is shooting out of marker, like just absolutely sprinting to get that A runner that's 5 or 6 metres out, chops him down straight away. Just like all these little things that he does, it's just like 10 out of 10, like premium high quality stuff. It's so good to watch.
It's one of those games I got to the end of it and looked at Cam Murray's stat sheet and like he made 44 tackles, but he had 7 runs for 80 metres. I feel like he was everywhere.
Mate, he was everywhere. 7 runs, 80 metres. That means 10 more. Like that's averaging more than 10 metres a run. He obviously made the line break.
But like it felt like to me it was one of those 130, 100. Like I thought he was huge in this one.
Did that from an edge.
Yeah, and you even talk, like we already spoke about it when Lehigh got sent from the field, but really good tackle. But like just the speed of the play, the ball he gets.
Yeah, straight up form.
Yeah.
He's such a pleasure to watch. He brings such a unique thing to rugby league. Like that quick play of the ball, it's such a weapon. It changes everything.
He just doesn't lapse ever.
Ever.
You never see him 1 minute or one play where Cam Murray's being lazy or running at 80% instead of 100%. He's just so reliable.
And every time the ball goes near him, he takes the right option. Like it is just such a pleasure to watch. His defense is outstanding, and the fact that he can just you chuck you on edge, good to go, 44 tackles, only 2 misses on an edge. Like that's not the same as being in the middle. It is a totally different job. He gets chucked out there in Origin. He gets chucked out there for Australia. Every time he just goes, no worries. Like I'll be one of the better. Like he's competing against Olakau'atu, Katoa, and Crichton, and he comes out and has an equally as good game as those boys.
Yeah, and keep in mind, since Origin 3, he's played 4 games of football in that time. Like, match fitness wouldn't be there for him.
Mate, it's amazing. He played 68 minutes as well, so he actually could have ran for probably 100 metres, and he got through that much work in such short time.
Yeah.
What about Angus Crichton had 7 offloads? Fucking hell. Bro, are you serious? He's so strong.
He's a freak, isn't he? Like, when you just like what he did in Origin this year and whatnot. And I know that he's, finals games weren't the peak of what we've seen from him, but he, like we always say, it's like a 10-year-old playing in the under 8s.
He's so
he's just taking
strong.
the piss sometimes.
He's big. Don't get me wrong. Like, he's a big boy, but he's not so much bigger than everyone else that he should be doing that. It is truly pound for pound strength. I'd love to. I remember our old weights coach at the Broncos. He used to talk about how certain people just have higher quality muscle density or something along those lines. I'm probably getting it wrong, but he's one of those guys. Like, I'm sure if you went because you can measure people's muscle mass in the machine, I'm sure you could get someone that has the same amount of muscle mass as Angus Crichton. That's like nowhere like half his strength. Like, he is so strong.
And mate, even when he first came into first grade, like, there wasn't that much to him, but they just couldn't bring him down.
Yeah. I mean, go back even in high school, go watch his highlights in rugby union. My God, absolute beast. So yeah, he was outstanding. Thoughts on Paddy Carrigan at 8, boys? What do you think?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with him there. I'd still stick with him for the rest of the series. It's funny, like when I watch him for you guys in the Broncos, whenever you move him out of anywhere other than 13, I fucking hate it. But in Repland, I don't mind him as just a middle.
I thought he did really well, man. I thought against that forward pack that's friggin' big, to be able to hold your own when you're not necessarily a huge front rower. I thought he was outstanding.
I think it's tough when you're the front rower. Like, he isn't, your A1 front rower. If you compare him up with a Payne Haas or like a Lindsay Collins when he's at his best, I think it makes a huge difference.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I was just having a bit of a look, but going back to Cam Murray, but we've spoken about his rep record before and like how series that he's played for the Blues often wins, or like his record there's really good, and games he's been injured in, or like there's been 1 or 2 where he's been injured early or concussed earlier and they've gone on to lose, and just the correlation between just his winning record.
Yeah.
And then I was going back to sort of last year's and just double checking, and he didn't play in the final against New Zealand when we got pumped 30-0.
No way.
But he did play in the game prior to it where we beat the Kiwis 36-18. So I can't remember what happened to him in that game, but injured or whatever it might have been, but to miss out on the final. But it's just another notch where the man just wins.
He just fine. Mate, he's so impactful. He is so impactful.
Yeah.
And that's why I just think you just got to find a way to get him in that 13 jersey.
Yeah.
And get Isaiah Yeo on the front row jersey. Because you look at Isaiah Yeo, like, he 71 minutes, 12 runs, 120 metres, 50 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, 34 tackles, 0 misses. Like, that's a bloody good knock. And that's, if you had that as a front rower, like, that's a good knock. Really good knock.
Yeah, like granted, last year he was also playing on the edge, but he went on that 6 or 7 try streak, whatever, for Australia that almost continued on the weekend.
Yeah.
But 36-18 against the Kiwis last year, and he scored. Before that, 38-12 against Samoa, and he scored in that one as well. Gets to the final, there's 30-0. Cam Murray doesn't play.
Yep.
So good.
Debutant Mitch Barnett, I thought, aside from, I think it was 1 error, I thought he was great. Jeez, he just lifted the tempo so much when he came on. So he played 35 minutes, 13 runs, 123 metres, 17 tackles, only 0 misses. I thought he really upped the tempo, and I would even consider starting him this week and bringing Lindsay off the bench.
Second most metres in the pack behind Angus Crichton, was 4 off him, doing that in his 35 minutes.
He's really good. He just come on and he just lifted the tempo, took it to the Tongan forwards, and I think he just had leg speed that Lindsay didn't have. And look, I know it's unfair to compare to Lindsay because he actually had to take the brunt. He had to take the fresh Tongan forward pack. But I just wonder whether, I reckon I'd consider starting. I know you might have a bit of a smaller pack then of Paddy Carrigan and Mitch. But if you're not going to put Isaiah Yeo up front, I reckon you consider putting Mitch Barnett there.
I'd be able to Mitch Barnett there. We sort of didn't really get a chance to talk about it because of the grand final, but even like the Dalian medal night, like he wasn't even in the top 5 for front row of the year. I couldn't fucking believe it.
Yeah,
I don't know if it had because he played some edge or whatever. If that was it, sure.
Or Adam's always stealing points off him, probably.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, fuck, I thought he was enormous this year as a middle forward. Like, whenever he played there, he was huge. Like, and I thought there was a number of days there for the Warriors where he had it over Adden as well.
Put it this way, there's an argument to be made he was more important this year to the Warriors because he played multiple positions.
Yep.
Any other players that you thought? I mean, we've spoken about Coates, but I thought Coates was really good. I thought Zach Lomax really good. Disregard the 4 errors. That was, him going up for bombs and that.
Roaming Turbo.
Oh,
Just
mate.
setting up that try of hammers, just sliding to the other side of the field, sliding in as a sweeping fullback, the ball playing for that. It just does things to
Yeah. I mean, look, there were a couple of times where I reckon he might have been able to pass it at centre, but he'll get used to that, playing centre again. But I tell you what, hasn't played for Australia in 6 years, comes out and just goes, boom, intercept first try.
Yeah. And what works there with Tommy Romey, and said before, like Dylan Edwards, all his ball playing, all his sweep, it's always down the right edge. He'd need his Google Maps to go to the left side of the field. He doesn't know how to get there. Tommy Turbo, who plays on the right at centre for Australia, he swept out and just basically ran that sweeping fullback line on the left. It just fits, doesn't it?
Yeah. Imagine being a defensive edge like with Hammer and Turbo coming at you.
Just going, fuck that. And I love the amount of work Tommy got through. Mate, he is so special.
I scored one, set one up, and was an inch from having an extra 2 tries.
Yep, and ran for 227 metres. And even if you take out the 60-metre field, you're still looking at 160, 70 metres from centre. He is, I feel like every time, like I always remember he's a freak, but sometimes like as time passes by, I forget how much of a freak he is. And then he comes out in his first game in 6 years and plays like that. And after being injured all year long, and you just like, this guy on his day is one of the greatest rugby league players of all time. And you can't put him as one of the greatest rugby league players of all time because, injuries and hasn't won a premiership and all that kind of stuff. But you can't tell me that this guy, when he is on the field playing his best, isn't as good as anyone that's ever played the game as an outside back.
Yeah, on his day, he is just,
Like, he's as damaging as, say, a Greg Inglis in a different way, but he's as damaging as a Greg Inglis on their day.
And in ways a more dangerous way too.
Mate, the things that he does, it's phenomenal. It's the amount of big games that he's impacted where he just, I don't know, I'll just impact this game. Look, what a cherry on top for Zach Lomax. Once again, comes in for the Australian side. And he probably didn't start compared to some of the other outside backs, but just to come in and do 16 runs, 155 metres, 63 post-contact, 5 tackle breaks, 2 offloads. Like, just what I'm really impressed with Zach Lomax's season is that, you always knew he had this potential to play really good footy. I never expected him to be able to go, well, his worst game will still be an 8.5 out of 10. And like, this would arguably be one of his most quiet games all season, and he was still phenomenal.
And I mean, we're now 4 games into his rep career. Name a brain explosion moment he's had, which is what that was the knock on him leading into Origin and whatnot. That a lot of people just thought that they couldn't trust him in that arena. He hasn't put a foot wrong.
He's been so good, and what I've been really impressed is that he's the main guy at the Dragons, and everything goes to him. But his ability to go, well, I'm not the main guy at the moment. I'll just get through the shit work, and that's what he did on the weekend. Like, he wasn't the main man, he wasn't the target, so he just said, "Give me the ball, I'll do all the shit tough stuff." It just signs of maturity. And I tell you what, when it comes to like signing someone for unders after the year they had, the Para Eels must be sitting there going, I cannot believe we got this bloke for the deal we got him for. Like, it's an actual joke.
The timing's insane of how that's played out.
Mate, they just must be him on the open market right now, $1 million. Like, if he, after that Origin series, if he was free to negotiate, I reckon he gets $1 million.
I mean, on top of that as well, like, he was in this game with Mitch Moses. He goal kicked too.
Yeah.
So, like,
and he took that drop goal. I was surprised at that. I was like, I was very surprised Mitchell Moses gave him that instead of Mitch being the one to take the drop goal. But they must have done they did do a lot of practice.
I wonder
you
if
saw
that
video.
points to Mitch still not being 100%. If he wasn't goal kicking, he didn't do that. I wonder if he is.
Maybe it's just more a matter of like, he doesn't want to overstep, come in after being injured for this long. And Lomax is more brash and willing to say, I want the ball, I want to kick, I guess.
It was the one just on half time, right?
Yeah.
And it was from decent enough range.
Yeah, it wasn't that far away though.
Okay,
yeah.
Do you think just a drop goal or the goal kicking as well? Or because he did the goal kicking in Origin, Lomax.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it was just a lock on. You know what? They probably just looked at their percentages maybe and said, you're better. But in saying that, Lomax, there is a video of Lomax on the Australian Instagram of him just nailing field goals from like 40,
I saw that.
50.
40, yeah.
It's crazy. So maybe that was just
I thought I was really fascinated like how Matty Burton was going to get injected and came on for the final 9 minutes of the game and came on through that middle. Basically, is just like essentially a lock forward and really effective. Obviously, very small sample size, but I don't believe we'd seen him sort of play that role before. And he had, within the space of a minute, basically of him having just come on the field, he had a half bust, then it wasn't credited as a line break, but near enough a line break. And it was just his push support with forwards and going their little tip-ons to him. Really dangerous. So it's one, you want to see a lot more of it and in bigger games and all that to see whether or not there's any legs in it moving forward. But, it could be a big one for not only Australia, but even the Blues moving forward. If going to Origin next year, Connor Watson, more than likely will be the 14, but if anything happens to Connor Watson, if Matty Burton can add this sort of middle forward role to his repertoire as the 14 off the bench, that adds a lot to him as the utility.
Especially his age. Like you get him into a squad early and basically, who knows? He could. You know what? They might even sometimes, in a few years, if there's a decision between him being selected at 6 and someone else, the fact that he can play other positions may, pip him into that 6 jersey.
Well, I think what cost him Blues this year even... So Connor Watson was injured game 1, but Birdo wasn't selected as the utility.
He was 18th man.
The 18th man. And I reckon coming off the back of that, they're just going, look, he can cover the backs, but, we want a 4-4 bench. We want someone who can spend time in the middle and do all that. If he can make a fist of this, going into selections next year, they go, well, he can be the 14 because it can be a 4-4 bench because we can get time out of him.
Yeah, and he's a big boy as well.
Hell yeah.
And I like to have him on the field for a kicking option.
Yeah.
Huge in Origin. Yeah. Huge. So yes, I thought Burton was good when he came on too. Ruben Cotter, I really felt that Barnett and Cotter did a really good job at upping the tempo. And I think Mal Meninga's game plan probably was, look, this Tongan side is massive. So if I'm going to bring on Barnett and Cotter, I'm going to tell them, guys, lift the tempo so that we fatigue this Tongan forward pack.
And that's where you look at Ruben Cotter, like 11 runs, 107 run meters. Like realistically, he did that in about 22 minutes because he spent 12 minutes playing hooker.
Yeah.
Interesting seeing him spend a bit of time at hooker.
Finally, I've been saying it for ages that he can cover it. But, he covered it. He covered it.
Well, I said Origin this year, I was like, I'd have gone with the dual fullbacks and have like Ponga on the bench. Because I was saying, like, you've got Cotter there. He doesn't need to play big minutes there. Harry can go his 80. And if he doesn't go 80 and he's gassed, Cotter can play 15 minutes there. Like, he doesn't have to be a well beater there. He just needs to tackle and pass.
Yeah.
Are you both having Burton as your 14 for the rest of this series?
Oh, it's so tough because I love the Benny Hunt Grant combo.
I'd go Ben Hunt personally.
Yeah. I really like what I saw from Burton, but I've seen more of Ben Hunt and Grant do some special things. So I'd probably go Benny Hunt and Grant.
I just think as well, when you got two halves that haven't played at this level before as well, I'd be happy to have the experience of Benny Hunt there.
If I hadn't seen Burton come on through the middle, it'd be different. But no, I thought the way they did inject Matty Burton there, he does cover halves, he does cover centre, he could potentially cover some other backs positions at a pinch as well. And just that Cotter can spell Harry Grant, I'm happy with what they've gone with and I think I'd stick with it.
Shout out to Hudson Young too, making his debut for the Kangaroos.
Yep, came on ripped and teared.
Yeah, a little story. I met him when I was down in Canberra a few weeks ago and whatnot, and about 6 weeks later, he got picked for New South Wales, then he got dropped. I just sent him a message on Instagram saying, fuck, that sucks, bro, just the way it played out. It's unlucky. And he replied and said, yeah, it sucks, but I'll be back bigger and better. And he literally said, I'm coming for green and gold.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and then end of the season, he's in there.
That's
incredible
so good.
effort, yeah.
And he came on and he actually had some good, strong runs, which is good to see.
And that's the thing, like, even the droppings from the Blues that he's had, I don't think they were as such on poor form. I think maybe his debut, there was 1 or 2 drop balls or something, but it was just more circumstantial about players' availability and that sort of thing. So,
Well, even Olakau'atu got dropped eventually from that
exactly
side.
Right. So it could be the making of him, hopefully.
Alrighty, that was the Australian, the Kangaroos versus Tonga review, brought to you by The Red, movie dropping October 31st in cinemas. It's about a psychotic kangaroo that goes around killing people in the bush. It's high quality, guys. It's not some shitty little budget movie. It's a high quality, high budget horror flick. A bit of fun. Obviously, it's all tongue in cheek, but just a bit of fun. So get into the cinemas October 31st. Watch The Red. It's an Australian-made film. Support Aussie cinema, and you can go and watch the. We'll put the trailer YouTube link in the YouTube caption so that you can go and watch the trailer. It's a bit of fun. It looks, and it's Aussie humour too. It's great about pubs and all that kind of stuff. So October 31st, The Red will be in cinemas. A killer kangaroo, just what we hope the Kangaroos do in the Pacific Championships. The killer Kangaroos. Alrighty, it is time for PNG versus Fiji, and I tell you who had a good day. PNG had a good day. They looked phenomenal. Make sure to go to begoodhealth.com.au. Get your good day. As you can see, we've all had our vitamins today. Rue's got his. I got mine. Timmy, you had yours as well.
As soon as I get up, it's the first thing I do. I put it in a sachet in a glass before I go to bed. So it's just there in the morning. Go bang. Carpe diem.
Boom. There you go. So we all bang the good day. Get to begoodhealth.com.au. It is super, super easy, guys. Really, really, you just chuck the satchel in your pocket. That's what I did this morning. Left the house, got here, chucked it in some water, and your multivitamin is sorted. It helps mood, it helps stress, it helps your digestive system, all that good stuff. begoodhealth.com.au. And it's obviously our friends, Hello Sport, Tom and Eddie. Get around them. Alrighty, PNG defeat Fiji. 22-10. I tell you what, with this game, man, it showed you how important having a team that plays more games together is, and it shows you how important connections are and combinations. Because PNG, for most of it, I mean, it was 18-0 at one stage, or it was quite a substantial victory by PNG. And you look on paper and you go, look, this Fiji side should not smash this PNG side, but it should win quite comfortably. But that's the thing. That's a beautiful thing about rugby league. It's not necessarily about the superstars in your team. It's about having a superstar team, and PNG showed that. And I tell you what, we do it each year when we watch PNG, but mate, there is so many players I look at and I just go, mate, if you were in a top 30 and you just had a good foundation with a couple of pre-seasons, you would kill it in the NRL. Great performance by PNG. Very disappointing from PG.
Yeah, for sure. I'm just trying to get the numbers up in front of me, but geez, I feel like Fiji over the last few years, they've been underwhelming, haven't they?
Well, they did have that World Cup game where they nearly beat New Zealand. Outside of that, it has been quite disappointing.
Yeah, and as you said before, Kempy, you tipped PNG, as did I, and I think, as you said, the players that they've got together, just having a halves pairing together that has played before and just understands each other's games, you can just take you a long way. And geez, there's some talented guys in this PNG side. Like, you have a look up at the Cowboys. They're obviously going to lose Val Holmes, Kyle Felt. This Robert Derby's been injured the last few years, but fuck, he looks like a talent. He's one that sort of hasn't been spoken about enough up there in that conversation, I don't think. And Valame, who was playing for Fiji, he's another one up there. Like, some very handy outside backs up there at the Cows.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of outside backs, I mean, actually, sorry, I'll get your thoughts on the game first, mate.
Yes, well, the best thing about it for me, from a Kummel's perspective, is just, as you said, like, a lot of these players have spent a lot of time playing together, a bit more probably cohesion than the Fijian outfit largely, but in recent years, it's been like Lockie Lamb puts on the Kummel's jersey and turns into Superman. He had an okay outing, but it was players around him that, put the points on the board and were the key attacking weapons in this one. And the other one who they were missing is Edwin Ipapi, who's an absolute star in my eyes. It's one that we're killing to see in the NRL one day, but was unavailable for this one as well. So, it was new players coming in and doing the damage for them. Like, we'll obviously get to the player specific in a minute, but Fiji obviously didn't account for Nene McDonald being the world's best fullback.
I was about to say.
Yeah, really caught it off guard. Golden boot incoming.
Yeah, mate, I tell you what, Nene McDonald, he's had some off-field issues, but he's a guy that should have been one of the best outside backs in the NRL. Like, That's how good he was when he played, for periods in the NRL. And it just shows you that unless you sort your off-field stuff out, you can have all the talent in the world. It's still not going to work out for you in the long run. And Nene McDonald, he's had some stuff happen in the off-field and jump between clubs. But when he turns it on, like, he has everything. He's big, he's powerful, he's fast, he's got an offload, he's got footwork. Like, he is a special, special player when he turns it on.
And there'll be people sitting at home saying, it's easy to say that after a game like that. We would have told you this for the last 8 fucking years.
Yeah,
the
he's
guy's
always been
been a gun. He just hasn't been able to put it all together.
You look at a guy like that, and you almost lament the fact that they didn't land at like a Storm, or even the Penrith when they were dominant, just in a good system, just to force him into.
He's had 8 clubs in 10 years.
Oh, that's
He
crazy.
debuted in 2014.
I know he's a gun, absolute gun. He's just had some issues off the field.
Super League Dream Team this year as well.
Yes.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Did he play? Was it the Devils?
Salford.
Yeah.
Red Devils.
And didn't he leave a contract before to go to the Devils? Like he had some kind of long-term contract.
He's had 3 clubs. He went from Lee in 22 to Leeds in 2023 to Salford in 2024.
In Lee, he scored 27 tries in 27 games.
Yeah, he's such a gun.
So 8 clubs in 10 years, and he didn't play in 2021.
Oh,
Mate, he's a special
20.
talent that when he really locks in, you see performances like this. And it's just a shame because a guy like this, he should have been in the NRL for 10 years, but it just didn't seem to work out.
Yeah.
But it's good. It looks like he's got a lot of his off-field stuff sorted. Hopefully it stays that way. What do you think about the game, mate?
yeah, I thought PNG were really good. I was quite surprised. To your point, Kempy, I thought Fiji on paper probably got a more star-studded team, but PNG got a bit of a roll on early, and Fiji couldn't reel him in. Obviously, you spoke about McDonald, very good. We'll get into some specifics later, but I thought Rob Darby as well on the wing, unbelievable. I like the hooker as well, Rimbu. I thought he had a really good game.
Killed it.
But yeah, they looked great. That's a good first hit out for them. Fiji a little bit disappointing, but pretty positive signs for PNG in the Pacific Bowl.
Now we'll stick on PNG, but so Jacob Alec Winky, isn't he with the Titans?
Yeah.
And they got him in the front row here, and he played on the edge for the Titans, I'm pretty sure.
I think he's a much better edge. I'm actually not sure if he's still contracted to the Titans. Can you check that, Matty? I've got a feeling he might not be.
Jacob Ailey.
Yeah, Jacob Ailey. I reckon he's very underrated. Every time I see him for the Titans, I love. He's not contracted. Wow. That's ridiculous.
He's got so much talent.
Yeah.
He's a big, rangy kind of edge back rower. I know he played front row here, but I mean, even here in the front row, so he played 53 minutes, 11 runs, 128 metres, 41 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, 29 tackles, 0 misses. I mean, geez, there's clubs that are desperate for forwards like that, that he could jump into their squad. Now, granted, you just never know what their application is like. If a player's got heaps of talent, but it doesn't seem to be working, usually there's other reasons for it, but you just hope that a guy like this could get more of an opportunity maybe.
Eye test alone to get all that other stuff. He's never not impressed me.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Always looks really good. I'll tell you what, boys, like if we do get a PNG side that enters the league in the next few years, I would love to see Reece Martin be the first signing and captain of that side coming in.
He'd be locked and loaded, wouldn't he?
He'd have to, but he's 31 now. So I don't know when that team comes in, but even if it's just like a Jesse Bromwich situation where you sign him for the year or maybe the first 2 years, I think he'd be the perfect person for it, Reece Martin.
I never could believe when the Bulldogs brushed him. I never understood that.
He's one of the unique situations where he came into first grade too late and he left too early.
It was the whole Bulldog situation with him. Like, he killed it. He was killing it. And then it just all went south and they were offering.
I think he was a victim of the Dean Pay sort of era there, from memory. Yeah.
Jesus, that sucks. So there's a lot to like about this PNG side, but Robert Derby, he's quick. He is quick. He obviously had a try assist, 19 runs, 297 metres, 43 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, a line break, 5 tackles. And also, I know he had, 2 intercepts? One was half of the field and then he passed. The other was about 70 metres, but he still ran for essentially 300 metres. So you take off, let's just say you take off 100 metres, it's still a 200 metre game for him.
Yeah.
Which is a bloody good knock. But he's going to be interesting it just shows you the depth the Cowboys have in the outside backs.
Yeah, and I think we're all, having a look at that back line, losing Val and losing Cole, felt a little bit nervous what they're going to do. I reckon they're low-key very confident up there. They've got the right guys out there.
I'm still nervous, though. I'm still. They're so hard to replace guys like Val and Feld.
Yeah, they are for sure. But I reckon the Cowboys would be a little bit more confident than what the rest of us are with the guys they've got up there.
No, of course, I totally understand for sure. Why they would back the young fellas, and then you got to look at price for value, all that stuff. I guess I'm scarred from the whole. the Broncos situation. We allowed Kurt Capewell to go, and even he wasn't even in the same form as Val and that were. However, just that experience and knowing what you're going to get each week, so valuable. It's so valuable. But I mean, look, in regards to potential and talent, geez, couldn't ask for much more.
This Derby's just got to stay fit. It's his body that just keeps holding him back.
And they still have Semi Valame. They've still got a couple of other boys that can.
They've got obviously Leibert's younger brother, who he did a ACL I think at the start of the year. Zach, so he'll be back. Purdue, he can slide out there as well. So they got plenty of guys up there.
So, Zach Leibert, he'll be a big one. He needs to stay fit because he can come in and wouldn't be on a lot. Horrible injury history in recent years, but he can slot in and be one of the better centres in the game. Like, he's such class, just can't stay on the field. So pray for a full fit season for him.
He can be one of the most exciting young fellas coming through.
He moves so well.
Similar-ish to like a Bostock. I know they play a bit differently or whatever, but just a young talent that is almost at that next generation of high quality players. In regards to anything else on PNG, boys?
Yeah, the one and only Sylvester Namo off the bench, absolutely barnstorming. 88 metres from his 10 runs in 27 minutes. He had 6 tackle breaks in that time, a couple of offloads. I thought he was devastating off the bench, and I was just looking him up. I was like, where's he playing? He's playing for the Newcastle Thunder in the English 3rd Division.
What?
He was outstanding in this.
And when you hear stories like that where they're
So
playing for
good.
their country on the big stage and playing. And so is that Newcastle's in Australia?
No, Newcastle,
England.
In England.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he was with Castleford, and I reckon he might have been bollocks but loaned out to him for game time or something. So played for Cass this year. So sorry, he played one game with the Newcastle Thunder. So I'll get to the bottom of it.
So I wonder, because they got the 2nd division over in Super League. Some guys get paid okay in the 2nd division, eh?
But I mean, you also have a look at this PNG side. Like 2 absolute staples over the last few years have been AJ and Juzzy Olam. Neither of them played in this game too, so pretty good knock.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now on to the Fiji side. They need to find a way to instill a system that's like long-term planning. I look at them and I almost feel like they rock up each year and go, our talent can get us across the line. And I just wonder whether if they could just, it's hard to say because resources are always short in, these kind of countries when it comes to rugby league. But if they could find a way to just instill the amount of hype and I guess want as Tonga and Samoa did, like they should be up on their level to a degree. Like maybe just a tad below. But when you look at this side, this side on paper it's a bloody good side. Like it's a bloody good side. Just get it up here. So you've got Taruva at fullback. You've got Sivo, Michael Jennings, Wanga Blake, Semi Valame. That's the backline. And then you go into the halves. You've got Kurt Donahue, who's decent. Kevin Nangama, obviously he's more of an outside back and he's an ageing player. You've got Kamikamitha, a grand final front rower. I'm unsure who Tanga Tumua is. Ben Nakabua, I'm unsure who that is. Kikau. Then you've got Katoni Katonga, and he's at the Bulldogs, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Caleb Navale, I'm unsure who he is. Tane Mill off the bench, but he ended up starting. You know what I mean? So, there's enough NRL players in here to begin, almost get the snowball rolling. You almost want to begin that snowball rolling so that in a few years' time, it goes from a tiny snowball into a big one. And I just feel like they haven't started that yet. Doesn't seem like it anyway.
And you know what? They were missing a number of players in this game, like Dream Buller, Appy, these sort of guys. But even if they were playing, I still think I would have tipped PNG.
Yeah.
Fiji, they just can't seem to put it all together.
Well, even you talk about putting things in motion, to improve their future and develop, particularly their international team. They've got the Silktails in the Jersey Flag competition, which is 23s? 21s, sorry. And just didn't win a game this year. 0-24.
And didn't get close either.
It's
They got the talent. They got the talent.
They've got talent. They're trying to put things in place. They had the New South Wales Cup bid a while ago now, but which obviously...
Jeez, that's going to hurt them.
Yeah, but now looking at it, it's probably for good reason. But they're trying to put things in place for Fiji and rugby league, but it's just, as you said, especially when we've seen the success of Samoa and Tonga over the last 5 to 10 years. Fiji are just still lagging a long way behind, aren't they?
Yeah, and I want to be really clear. I know there are people that are doing it for free right now, working their backside off to build Fiji. I'm not discounting their work at all. It's just sometimes you just need, like, for example, you look at the Tonga situation, like, you know, Fafita came across, and it was huge. But when Taumalolo said, "I'm in," like, that really was the moment. Now, and granted, I know that there were moments behind the scene that we don't know about that got Taumalolo to say yes. But I feel like Fiji need one of those moments where they just have that huge push, that huge public hype. Everyone starts to get involved. Everyone wants to help out because they got the talent. They really do.
Yeah, well and sure they do. It's a great squad, and like when you add in the guys that are unavailable as well, there's a lot of very good first graders there.
Yeah.
If they can have them for the World Cup, they'll give it a big shake. It's just, once again, you come back to the halves. Like, Donahoe's a good footballer. Like, he's not a halfback though. He's just filling in there. And like the other one they've had there for years who's done a good job for him has been Wakeham. Obviously, he's not going to be featuring anytime soon. So they have got a little bit of a hole there. I think Nagama's retiring at the end of this year. Like, that'll leave a massive hole because he's jumped in at 6 a lot over the years. You just, as you said, they just need that little extra push.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Team there.
Yeah, and I remember when, like, Petro's been a big component of trying to get things across the line, and they have shown, like, when they play well, they show flashes of brilliance. Like, they were this close. They were one bad call away from knocking out the Kiwis in the World Cup.
Yep.
And then, you know, they have some of their lower games where they struggle.
Well,
so
they had, and again, like they have obviously got the same excuses. We just said it for Australia. You know, we'll say it for numerous teams this time of year, but players coming together, a bit very clunky in attack. But as you said, boys, there's enough class in this side that they one line break in this game. Like,
look at, like, one line break when you got Kikau on your side. He should have 2 himself.
Well, Kikau had 11 runs for 83 metres. And it's not so much a knock on Kikau, but, like, he's so clearly the star on this rugby league field for this game and the star of the Fijian team. Your attack's just got to centre around the bloke.
And he missed 6 tackles.
Yeah.
Like, Kikau shouldn't be missing 6 tackles in an
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And you've just got this devastating ball runner. And you had Taruva at fullback. I'd just be hitting kick out. I'd have Taruva off his hip. As I mentioned before, with the Tongans, the back rows, they'll get offloads. They're devastating. Kick out up against PNG. Opportunity's going to come. Just be off his hip.
Yeah. Like, literally, just a 2 pass to kick out.
Yeah.
And then just get one player either side of him. He's going to get the offload.
Yeah, I was just having a quick look through here. Obviously, some of the players they were missing that could potentially come back for a World Cup. So, obviously, Api Coruscant serving his ban at the moment, so he was out of action. The Saifiti brothers might be available to come in as well, apparently. And Jurian Buller is another one that's missing for them at the back. So, you bring those 4 players in on top of what you've got there already. All of a sudden, it starts to look, like a pretty decent side.
Bullet to fullback, Truva to wing, Appian at 9. Like, it's a different looking side.
And then it's just a matter of, like, just finding a 7. If they could just get a 7, because Appy can take care of a lot of it.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you just had a good defensive 6 and 7 and Appy just ran everything.
Yeah, when you've got Appy there, just blokes that can kick well and do a job.
Yeah. So, disappointing night for Fiji, but hopefully they can bounce back. Tough one.
I love the way that they just put Tane in the middle and just let him go. I know he played on an edge, but just the way, like, I know he can play centre, he can play wing, but I think in the modern game, he is so well suited to that jersey 17 in the footy side. I would love to. I know at the Rabbitohs, at the moment, he doesn't have a contract for next year. They put up a post for the players that fell well, and Tane wasn't in it, so I would assume he probably stays at Souths. Fuck, I reckon he'd be a good signing for a number of clubs out there in jersey 17.
I thought he was quite good. He had a couple of 1 or 2 little try savers there as well early in the game. I thought he had a good rip and a tear. Yeah.
You know what I like? If you pick him in jersey 17, you put him out there for 20 minutes. It's enough time for him to impact the game, but probably not enough time for him to find a brain explosion. Just what he tends to do. He goes out there for 80 minutes. He gets in individual battles with blokes, and then he's got a tendency just to lose his head out of nowhere. Tane, but I reckon coming off the bench. There's coverage for a few positions. If all goes to plan, you just put him on through the middle. He had 8 offloads in this game.
You just bite the bullet, Roo, and just say, mate, you're a forward. Make that full-time move. You're a bench forward. Once you spend some time there, he can become a starting edge player or middle lock, whatever it might be. But because I feel like chopping between centre and wing and little bits and pieces in the forwards between New South Wales Cup and that, it's like just give the bloke a position to focus on and let him do it.
No, I see value in that. In the Jersey 17, the modern game with HIAs and all that. That's where I really see his value. I think he'd be very handy.
I mean, in the modern game, if you could just get his discipline right, he is unbelievably valuable. Can play anywhere in the back line and also in the middle. Like, it just discipline. That's
Just
really
discipline,
that's the
100%.
biggest issue he has. So disappointing, but hopefully the boys bounce back. Alrighty, it's time for Beak's Bag. Don't forget, guys, leave a comment in the comment section asking your question, and each week we pick one question, and then the question that we pick, we give a $50 bloke gift voucher for. Alrighty, this is from at Tager. Make sure to email Matt at Bloke in a Bar, Tager, to get your $50 gift voucher. It says, dream lineup for NRL 100-metre race can be past or present. We'll do 8 players so you can pick 2 each. Alrighty. Okay, dream lineup for a 100-metre race. I'm going Jimmy the Jet, James Roberts.
Oh, yep.
He is lightning. And obviously, I'm going the Beak. No. Who else would I go in regards to? I'm going Saab. Going Saab and Roberts.
Just feel like exact two.
I will go for Melbourne, Josh Addo-Carr.
Okay.
Probably 2017 Josh Addo-Carr. And I'm going to throw a little blast in the past. I'm going to go Brett Dallas.
Okay.
Dallas. I'll go Darren Albert. Just I love the bloke. Darren Albert. Stevie Renouf was lightning.
Yeah, the Pearl.
I think I'll go Albert and got to go Ken Irvine, one of the greatest try scorer of all time. So Irvine, you literally took the exact two I was going to say.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a good nomination so far. I'll go with the Hammer right here and now, and I'm going to take 2003 Reece Wesser.
He was lightning. He was
They
lightning.
used to talk a lot about being rugby, like across 40 metres. There's just about nobody that could catch Reece Wesser, but I reckon at his prime, I've got to have him in this field.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
I love with the Roberts one. I'm sure I probably told this story before, but I was watching. I reckon it was probably 2010, a Rabbitohs Raiders prelim final out at Olympic Park. James Roberts caught a ball in his in goal.
Toyota Cup.
Toyota Cup.
Yeah.
What did I say?
He just didn't.
I didn't say anything. So, Toyota Cup. And skinned about 3 blokes from his own in goal. It was the quickest I've seen a bloke move on a rugby league field.
And he was 16 then.
Yeah.
16
That's the
years
fucked up
old.
thing. If you ever look at James Roberts' Toyota Cup career, he played in that grand final in 2010. He got man of the match in the grand final in the 2013 Toyota Cup grand final.
No way.
It's insane.
Oh, yeah.
He was an absolute freak, Jimmy. Especially when he was young. He was just untouchable.
Alrighty. Benny Hunt situation. It's getting ugly. I think we all could have probably predicted this last year, that it wouldn't end nicely, even though there was a period there where we felt, oh, this actually could work out. Basically, getting conflicting reports. You know, first it was Benny Hunt has permission to negotiate elsewhere. And I guess a lot of the rugby league community scratched their head and said, well, he has that permission anyway. In literally like 10 days, November 1st, he can talk to other clubs. And so basically the first report was that he's not going to get offered a contract in turning 26 by the Dragons. And then the next report comes out and says, well, no, actually, the Dragons just want to see how he goes in the first year. In the 2025 at the start of the season. And so it's just a shemozzle. It's an absolute debacle. Boys, I'd love to get your thoughts on the Benny Hunt situation.
Mate, I think as a whole, like every Dragons fan I talk to, I think they're done. I think they want to see a change. You know, I think all of us NRL fans, I want to see Ben Hunt somewhere else. I'd love to see what Ben Hunt can do when he's at somewhere that he's comfortable and seemingly happy all the time. And I don't think he can win a comp with the Dragons in the next 2 years. I don't know if there's a bloke in the NRL that deserves a comp more than Benny Hunt.
It's such a weird situation because I just feel like this year's been great for the Dragons, been outstanding. But what I don't understand is that they could have gotten so much more for him if they had bit the bullet initially and said, all right, mate, you want out of here? Let's get a good deal. Whereas right now, like, there's a lot of clubs to be like, you know, he's 34 years old. Like, you're not going to get... Put it this way, Benny Hunt at the end of... No, not this year, but last year before, like, a lot of clubs would have traded, like, some of their best players to get him on board.
Yep.
I think I think a lot of clubs would play hardball with the Dragons and go, nah, not happening. Timmy, what do you reckon, mate?
It's one of the ones where you just want to, as you said, boys, see them cut ties, the Dragons, and just for Benny Hunt's sake, for the Dragons' sake, and which is so disappointing because after all the conjecture last year about his future and him not wanting to be there, but then he stuck in and gave his all this year, had certainly a mixed year, but enough good signs there. So they've got through that period. Want to see him dig in, stay there. It's like, okay, clearly there's still a lot of issues. So Benny obviously wants to go. Everyone wants to see him play elsewhere now, give or take maybe Dragons fans. But from the Dragons club perspective, they need a ready-made replacement to come in if they're going to get rid of him, which at this time of year, it's tricky. So if they wanted to do it for 2025, that is, of course. 2026 is a bit different. But, Benny Hunt's not going to go out there and not give his all. It's not in his character. But you either want to be there or you don't. And by the sounds of it, Benny Hunt doesn't want to be there. So I'd love to see him somewhere else in 2025. But the Dragons would also be mad to release him unless they had someone essentially signed, sealed and delivers to come in his place. Because if they get rid of him, what is it like? Marshke and Flano in the halves next year?
Yeah, well, I don't think Marshke's at the club this year. Didn't get re-signed.
Right, so...
But what I don't get is, then why is all this been released? If it's important to keep him, why has this been, whether it's, let's just, I usually, tend towards, clubs leak these things, but you know what? I'll sit here and go, let's just say it's been an equal blame. Both parties have been leaking things. It's been Ben's management and it's also been the clubs. Even in that situation, I don't understand why the club would leak stuff like, you weren't good enough in the review and, we need to see how you go next year. I just don't know how that, why create a situation where Ben's unhappy when you're not in a position to replace him yet? I just don't understand how this has been handled.
Yeah, it seems like weird timing, and it feels like, I don't know, every second year he's like, oh, yeah, I'll stay now, or no, I need to go. So it's really strange, and I don't really know who else is out there who might be, ready to roll from another club and slot in at number 7, because I haven't really heard a hell of a lot of chat about other 7s looking to move around. Is there anyone that's leaving out?
Not really, no. There's really no one on that. So it's just a strange situation, and I really do, although the year's been great for the Dragons, I just reiterate, if they had bit the bullet initially, I think we all agreed, because at the end of the day, yes, they've gone better, but they didn't make the 8. They didn't make the 8 year before with Benny. They didn't make even though Benny's a gun, in the current environment with Ben Hunt, you weren't making the 8. So why not just cop it okay, well, instead of us finishing 12th, we're going to finish 14th. But we'll get someone for Benny in the next years. Whereas now they find themselves the Dragons find themselves in a really, not a disaster is a strong word because we don't know how they're going to go. And Flanagan has shown back against the wall he can do special things. But there's no one there to replace him. What do they do?
And it's just such an awkward time frame, Kempy. He'll turn 35 27th of March, so that'll be about round 3 or 4 or something next year. So it's if you're getting rid of him for next year, all right, you'll still get a decent offer and you might be able to get some value there. The following year, if you're getting rid of him for 2026, he'll be 36 by the time round 4 comes.
But what I don't understand, he's already eligible to speak to other clubs for 26.
Yeah.
And so what I don't get is I just can't see a world where you said to Benny Hunt, mate, we're going to see how you go at the start of next year, and then we can open negotiations to sign with it, to re-sign. I can't see a world where Benny would be like, oh, how insulting. Nah, I'm going to the media, and of course Benny would be like, yeah, fair enough. I understand that. The whole thing doesn't add up. And I don't know where you can point the finger, whether it's managers, whether it's club or whatever. But I just think that the track record of handling these things for the Dragons over the last 4 or 5 years has been pretty poor. Pretty poor.
It's been a disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you guys see him playing next year? Will it be at the Dragons or?
Well, it's almost I say how can he, but at the same time he did this year.
Yeah, I said the same thing. Yeah, it seemed outrageous. The only place that I can see that maybe they can make something work, you got the Roosters at the moment. Sam Walker's not available. Chad Towers has just arrived there. We know that Flano's got a relationship with him. He won a comp with him. I wonder, if you can get, I sure as fuck wouldn't be swapping Ben Hunt for Chad Townsend, but if you can get maybe a 2-player swap, maybe that's an avenue. But I just don't know where else it would.
Cowboys, Queensland, somewhat of a premiership window. Like, it's doable.
But who would the Cowboys be willing to swap?
Well, I don't know, but I'm looking at launching, like, where
Ben could land.
like he could slot in there, partner Tom Dearden in a team that they could win a comp, like, especially if Benny Hunt goes in there.
Yeah, but like, what do the Dragons get for him? Are you talking about 26 or 25? Rue's talking about 25.
25.
So who would the Cowboys give?
Clifford or something?
Yeah,
Reckon
well,
Dragons?
well,
No,
well,
they
it'd have
probably
to be like Clifford and someone else.
Yeah, they want
obviously.
2 again.
I just don't see where the swap is. Like, I just don't know where the swap comes. Like, where the Dragons are going to be like, oh yeah, we'll take Clifford and
And even to my potential one, like Chad, like, it's a bang average swap, but it's only because I know Flano's had experience with Chad before.
yeah.
But, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be a swap because they get rid of Hunt, free up a ton of cash, then have money to splash anywhere else across the NRL. Now, I'm not saying there's a halfback available that they can slot in, but it doesn't have to be a swap with the Cowboys.
So you just think that they'd be willing to just free up cash for 25?
No, like I already said, that they'd need to have someone signed, sealed, and delivered to replace Ben Hunt because they don't have a halfback at the moment. But I'm saying if they did and could find someone who's ready to come to the Dragons, then I think that is a logical fit to the Cowboys.
I'm struggling to see who they would have in this short notice to fill $1 million contract. I just don't know who's there. Like, and so I just think that, like, the managing of the situation, because it's such short notice, you just almost go, mate, he has to be. Like, so let's not agitate the situation any worse than it has to be from a club perspective. And granted, look, if it's the manager that's just like all of a sudden come out and he's the one that's completely responsible for this, then yeah, like that's a shit go. Like, that's a shit go from the manager. But as I said, you know, I'm happy to say it's 50-50, but I'd be very surprised if the Dragons have just handled this situation so well when we see the track record over the last 4 or 5 years of the way they've handled things. And I know Dragons fans, like, you know, whenever you talk about these things, there's fans that will just immediately, no, the club hasn't done anything wrong. It's purely Ben Hunt. It's purely Ben Hunt. I get that. You're never going to win that battle with fans because they're fans of the club first. But I just don't know whether the Dragons have handled this situation as good as they could have.
What about if you're looking for a replacement for him for 25? Could you maybe look at like a Lockie Lamb, bringing him home maybe?
Yeah, again, you'd just be sitting there with such, like, what do you reckon you get him back for? About 400 grand?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then have
I think
600.
it'd be reasonably good value for him.
Yeah.
Plenty of money to make a play for someone like Jaden Sullivan, struggling to get a crack at the Tigers. I'm looking at, like, clubs with a logjam, and I'm like, the Tigers have so many halves at the moment. Look at Latu Finu, who, not to say Latu Finu is going to leave the Tigers, but, you know, will be battling for a bench spot. Could be a future star. As I said, Dragons not in a premiership window, but building towards the future. You know, if the Tigers are going to go obviously with Luai, well, they will, Luai and Galvin moving forward, could you try and make a big play for someone like Latu Finu? Could you make a play for one of these Titan spine players or halves that are I don't know. Like, you know, we're looking at direct halfbacks, and the reality is there's not a lot of good top line organising halfbacks around. There's a lot of good ball running 5'8". Flano came through the grades as a 7. If you could get a big name or a decent name 5'8", could you put Flano to halfback and have a gun 5'8" in there maybe?
That's probably your best bet.
Yeah.
That's probably your best bet is you move Flano to 7 and because, like, Flano didn't really play like a 6 this year. He played probably closer to a 7 to a degree, and Benny Hunt does play quite uniquely. Yeah, it's just a weird situation. You know, it's whoever is to blame, whether it's management, whether it's a club, the whole situation's been a disaster. It really has.
Plenty of halves up at Newcastle. Maybe if you get one of them and a forward or something, maybe.
I could see like a Hastings to a degree. And was Hastings linked? No, he was linked to the Rabbitohs. Maybe
he's a Dragons junior.
I could see that. A Hastings plus, you know, a bit of pay thrown in or something. Like they'll pay his whole contract or something.
I mean, couldn't be further from a light flight replacement, but if they're building towards the future, maybe someone like a Jonah Pezzett.
Yeah. Or maybe the Wishart from the Storm. I don't think he'd go anywhere though. I actually seen Wishart on the plane on the way down to Melbourne.
Wishart's an interesting one. He's an interesting one with obviously he's from Gerringong.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they let Wishy go for
bring him
nothing
back.
and then they swap him for Ben fucking Hunt? I don't think they'd do it just out of optics.
Oh man. So look, it's a tough one. I just think that, look, The rubber has met the road, as they say, and it's time to part ways. The relationship is over. Okay, now on to the West Tigers. So reporters come out. The West Tigers CEO, he's had some quite strong words for Bateman. I'm just trying to get it up here. But he basically said to Bateman, did you guys see this quote?
Yeah, I saw it.
Walk us through the quote.
Well, he basically said if you're coming back and you've got an issue with the way that Benji does things, you're not going to be here much longer. That was the crux of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I completely agree. He's the coach of the team.
Yeah.
Obviously they didn't go that well last year, and he would have been hoping for a bit better than that. But I don't know the full scenario around why he went home. But as a fan looking at that, I thought the optics were pretty poor. Just leaving and going, I'm going back for the rest of the season. I'll see you next year.
Do you think there's a chance that the Tigers pushed him to that because they were hoping he would bounce?
Yep, I do.
Okay.
But regardless, it didn't feel great. I was
Okay.
had high hopes when he came back. He's a great player. Probably didn't get to the heights that we'd probably hoped. I thought he gave away a lot of. We spoke about last year. Discipline was a bad thing for us. I thought he was a guy that could have potentially led that, but he got tangled up in a lot of kind of niggly stuff and giving away a lot of penalties and whatever. It seems like there's a bit of a tension point there, and I don't know if it's a great thing if that keeps going. So, if he's coming back, hopefully he's on board and Benji, they can get along well. But if it's going to continue to be a bit of an issue, probably rather they work out a way to get rid of him and get someone else in there.
I just think the public nature of it,
It's not great.
I'm not a fan of that.
No.
Because, if a player came out and said something like that to a CEO, the CEO would be fuming. I think that those kind of conversations always need to happen internally.
Yep.
I think it is almost certainly shown us that their hope was he would go back to Super League and they'd never see him again.
Yep.
Now, there are reports that Manly may be considering bringing him on board, with Tigers reportedly willing to chip into his salary. This is all just reportedly.
We'll take Ola Kawatu then.
Thoughts, Drew?
I mean, egg on my face. I thought there was not a hope in hell he'd be back. I just thought that this. I almost assumed there was a conversation between Tigers and John. This is how we'll do it publicly. All the best.
Yeah.
I can't believe he's coming back. And I mean, without knowing the bloke, personally or whatever, I got to be honest, if I was another NRL club, I think I'd be hesitant to sign him. There's been a lot of smoke around him for quite some time, and smoke that tends to be fire in rugby league.
I just don't know whether he suits a rookie coach. The type of player that Bateman is, I'm just unsure whether he needs a big, larger-than-life figure to kind of, Ricky Stewart was the perfect man for him, obviously until it wasn't. But yeah, I just wonder whether. I just don't know whether he suits the current environment at the Tigers. I'm not sure whether it's going to work long term, which is, I know Richardson wasn't at the club when he signed him, but just one of those things that, you're obviously left with signings that suited certain coaches before him. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm sort of a foot in sort of both courts, because I'm just like, the Tigers, they need to make statements to players that you need to come here to win and be all in on it. And as I said, the optics around him leaving last year, there wasn't enough made of that. There was one of your key recruits has just left for the back end of the season to go play for another club in another competition. It's in what world does that happen?
Yeah.
The Super League it does. The NRL it doesn't though. And I just thought that was a really bad look. So I get where Richo's coming from. As you said, it certainly wasn't a Richo signing, John Bateman. In the other park, I see all the great stuff he did at the Raiders and what he did for the culture there. As you said, it was a little bit of a messy ending, but he just had such an influential role in our charge to the grand final and prelims and all that. And I'm going, far out, there's some good in him. Even when he played for the Tigers this year, sort of Hammy alluded to a few disciplinary issues, but I still thought he gave it his all, and he was having a ton of runs, making a ton of tackles. So I still think there's absolutely a place for him. And I look at it and go, well, he's gone to the Tigers, where this seems to happen to everybody player that goes to the Tigers over the last 3, 4, 5 years. So I'm again, he's at the club, or he's at John Bateman. I don't know, but there's an argument that you can look either way.
Well, apparently when he went over to Super League, he killed it. They loved him.
Yeah.
They didn't want to see the back of him. It's an interesting one. I guess as well, I just want to know why the club even allowed him to go back home instead of saying, "No, mate, let's just assume that it was Bateman that was I want to go back and play in the Super League." I don't know why the club didn't say no. Like, you're here, we need you to rip and tear. Like,
We're looking down the barrel of a third wooden spoon in a
Yeah.
row. It's embarrassing. We need all of our players on deck.
because they had to greenlight it. Like,
Yeah.
he can't just leave. So I just don't understand the thought process there.
That's where I just assumed it was a good buy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whole situation
one.
is so strange.
Oh, only 3 years to run on his deal, so that'll be interesting.
has he got 3 years left?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Christ. So what was that? A 5-year contract?
4-year deal. Yeah.
Fuck.
2 years,
2 years
to go.
left? Okay.
Still heaps. For
Yeah,
a guy 18 months in, you're happy to see ya.
And your CEO's publicly, like, basically the implication is that he wasn't on board and he needs to pull his head in. And it's just like, again, I see that and I go, like, that's clearly a move to say, get out of here. You are gone. We do not want you here. Because it's like, if you want to make it work, you don't say that publicly. Like, if you want to make it work and get the best out of Bateman,
It's all just more noise out of the Tigers.
Yeah, I
Like,
just don't-
be quiet.
it's just, yeah.
There's a bit of chat about him potentially ending up at the Rabbitohs as well. To your point around, the right coach having him, maybe like a Wayne, a bit older, a bit more old school, maybe could get the best
Yeah.
out of him. Obviously, a shame to see another like good player leave the
Tell you
Tigers.
what, I actually don't mind him at Manly on an edge. Him and Olakawatu.
Oh, outstanding.
Oh,
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't mind him at all. And that's what the yarn is that Manly might be interested. They got the best out of Brown. I know they're a bit different, but I don't mind it. Yeah, it's a really tough one because, you can understand the club because it is such a new era at the Tigers. Some tough decisions need to be made. But at the same time, it's really hard to say, like, we were just talking about how the Dragons over the last 4 to 5 years have made some, struggled to make the right decision in certain areas. Well, the Tigers are the same. So to your point, Timmy, it's hard to know where to point the finger because it's like, well, there's so many players that have gone to this club and it's not worked out. Like, they just lost Stefano, who has been in that club for years and said, even with this new management, has said, you know what, like, I'm out. But at the same time, you do watch Bateman when he, played this year. He did have ill discipline. He did go back to the Super League. So I don't know, man. I don't know what the truth is.
No.
It's just a shit fight.
Such a bizarre situation.
It's so weird. I thought he was gone for sure. I thought there's no way that he'd go back to the Super League. But then I don't get in my mind what the club gained by allowing him to do that.
He's got his daughter over there. So something, again, I'm completely spitballing here, but if it's just something like their season was done, they're like, let's put the focus on 2025, get him back there, get him happy. He's still playing footy, he's staying fit, spend time with his daughter, come back with the right attitude this year. I'm not saying I agree with it, but that's what it reads.
But then you throw out that comment, though.
Yeah, and then you said that's I don't know.
I don't know. It's strange, but yeah, it is what it is. I seriously don't know how to, I just think it's, no matter what in this new era, there's going to be growing pains.
Yep.
And this is definitely one of those growing pains,
Yep.
unfortunately. Now, there's also reports that the Tigers are reportedly willing to allow Sullivan, Naden and Staines to leave the club should they find deals elsewhere.
Yep.
Now, we spoke about it in the review, but it's the Sullivan one that's a real tough one for him. And it's a tough one for Sullivan as well. Like, I know he hasn't really stepped up and played as well as we know he can, but, even him as a young player is probably not getting the best development in reserve grade. But he's on a big wicket. There's not many clubs that are going to willing. I mean, look, if he's on 600K, if you're a club, would you be willing to go, I'll pay 300, maybe, at a crack? See how because he's got potential, Sullivan.
He's got potential. Mate, it puts him in such a fucked up situation.
It's such a big wicket.
Such a big wicket. And when he has got his opportunities this year, I love Sullivan. I thought he was such a good player coming through the grades, but Christ, I was disappointed in his performances when he got his opportunities. And yet, it was almost performances where you question, effort in those games.
He's
He just looked disinterested.
He's realistically probably second in line, but you could argue he's third in line for the Tigers halves.
He's on a big contract.
Because Latu Fine is next. You could argue if Adam Dewey puts his foot down enough and really wants to play 5'8", it could be him after that to partner like a Luai if, say, Galvin went down. And then it could be Bud Sullivan. He's on, 700-800 or something? Could be third in line for a call-up.
Put it this way, I think if he was on the same amount of money as Aiden Caesar, they had the choice between both of them. I think they keep Caesar over him.
Because
I think
Caesar's
it's just a
gone
sake
back
of
to
time.
England, right?
Yeah, they
Yeah.
had to let him
Yeah.
go. It's, yeah.
Well, it just screams of Super League, doesn't it, for Bud Sullivan? Just get a Super League club to come over.
He'd probably kill it in Super League.
He'd nail it in Super League.
Like, he would kill it in Super League. So, yeah, tough. Now, just quickly, Eels are looking at potential Ronald Volkman to come into the squad. Don't mind it. I don't mind it at all as a depth signing. Heaps of talent. Probably, his shoulder injury just really, he had a bit of momentum at the Warriors. I know it didn't work out and they allowed him to move, but, he's still a young half, so he still had years to kind of push into a first-grade spot. I don't mind it from the Eels. If they can get him at the right price, I don't mind it.
I like it for anyone. I still think he's got so much to offer. I really do. And I think that last year would have been really tough and brutal on him. But I look at Parramatta and, we saw during this season, Mitch Moses got injured and it all just went to shit. I know they've signed Hawkins from South Sydney. If they sign Volkman, he'd probably be my next man up.
Yeah, okay.
I still think he's got plenty to offer.
Dragons wouldn't keep him now that they're potentially going to need a half.
Oh, there's no way he'd stay at the Dragons now.
If I'm Volkman, I'm getting as far away as I can.
No, they had to settle out of court. I don't know about court, but it was not a happy ending.
It ended up though they had to. It was as though he was on their roster, wasn't it?
They got found. I think guilty is the wrong word, but the NRL basically said, mate, you guys are on the hook for this.
Gotcha. Yep.
And look, I know I'm sorry to put the boot in, but once again, the Dragons poor handling of something. It's just it's not great. It's not great. So I don't mind that. I don't mind him playing at the Eels. But alrighty, boys. Anything else? Anything else today?
Do you want to just whack a couple of face music tips in for next week? Bit of Pacific Championship.
Let's do it.
All right.
Time to face a bit of music, brought to you by our friends at Sportsbet.
2 games this weekend. Fiji versus the Cook Islands. The first one, Fiji $1.25. Cook Islands $4. 13.5 is the line in this one. If you can give me a try score as well, I'll take it.
Okay, I'm going to go Taruva anytime. I'm going to go Fiji 13+.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll go Fiji 13+ as well. Give me Tane.
Yep.
Fiji 13+. Is Geordie Rapana playing for the Cook Islands or not? We don't know.
No.
If Geordie Rapana's playing, I'll go Jordan Rapana. And is he still no good? But if not, I'll go Viliami Kikau.
Yep. What about yourself, Matty? No, I don't know. Okay. I'll go Fiji 13+ as well. And I will go Kevin Aguama to get over for 1. All right, the other game we've got this weekend is New Zealand, $2.75. Australia, $1.45. 6.5 is the line Sunday afternoon at Christchurch.
Australia.
Yep.
And I'm gonna go Tommy anytime.
I'm gonna go Australia, and I'm gonna go Keeney.
Oh.
What was the line, sorry, mate?
6.5.
Australia, and Hammer.
Geez, you guys taking all the good ones. I'll go Australia, and Dill Edwards just to silence Roo. Silence
his hate, his disrespect.
It'll be tough to score from the stands.
Jeez.
Holy heckers.
Right. We'll see how they go next week. Don't forget to follow Denon on the feed for his racing tips this week. And Cox Plate, big weekend for you,
mate. I've been waiting all year for this. Cox Plate, I put in my diary at the start of the year because that's where I do my best work in the tipping area. That's where I do my best work.
Who do you like?
Look, there's a few horses that I've really got my eye on.
Yep. Big omen bet for me, a tissue at $34. Hayfever's been playing up, $7.50 place as well. So let's see how that one goes.
So give us a follow on the feed, guys. We've got a huge plans for racing season. It's going to be awesome, heaps of fun. Give us a follow, give me something as well, because we'll be on that each week as well. Bit of banter between me and Dan Orange. Make sure to grab some coffee at grumpycoffee.com.au, the best coffee in all the land. Our pods are back. And also, if you order, you should get your order within a 48 to 72-hour period because we've caught up with all the deliveries. Any problems, head to our website, go to the customer service, leave us a little message, and we will make sure to get on it straight away. We got beans, ground, pods, you name it. Grumpycoffee.com.au. Give Rugby League Guru a follow on Instagram and subscribe to your podcast. Subscribe to SC Playbook on Instagram and the podcast and YouTube, all that good stuff. And as usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves. Thank you.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.